I mean, it's where we should probably be, but it's not where we want to be, right? So my kids were excited, so happy for them. My players probably excited, but we've got bigger plans than that. So
here's Debo in motion, jet sweep handoff to Debo, a block and a dive for the goal line, and he's up on the goal line and in. Touchdown!
I thought it was worth it.
Hey,
San Francisco, and this one counts. They're not taking it back. Ayuk behind Bell left. They run Mason off the left side, a cutback run. Touchdown! San Francisco!
A little Mason madness on the cutback, right off an unbelievable block.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
Yeah! Get set! Here we go!
all right, here we go on a Tuesday. Going up on a Tuesday. That's what the day is. That would really, really be a bad start. If it was Wednesday and I got all excited for our Tuesday open.
Well, wait. No, you just said you mentioned in conversation last week when you said it was Tuesday. We're like, dude, it's Wednesday.
Last week screwed me up.
It was, but doesn't it also drive home the point that we just 4-day weeks are cool?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I would like to work in a world in a country where they only work 4 days a week and go to school 4 days a week. I tried the 4-day-a-week thing when I was in school. Doesn't go over so well.
Same.
Now I'm going to try as an adult. But I like that. There's more and more places, though, in this country that, Fortune 500 companies that will only work 4 days a week.
Yeah.
I mean, have a 3-day off. Now you have to decide, it's the tricky one. Do you want Friday or Monday off?
I think you want Monday off.
I'm with you.
I think you want Monday off.
Friday work days are fun.
Last week was great.
Kind of.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Last week was great. You get into a Tuesday, all of a sudden you're doing like a little bit of reaction from what you saw, but then you're smack dab right into the middle of the next thing.
I think Tuesday is the worst day of the week. I've said this for the longest time. Like, I'm okay with Mondays because you're coming off the weekend. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. Mm-hmm. Tuesday's kind of Wednesday is okay. It's middle of the week. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Thursday is Thirsty Thursday. And then, of course, Friday is Friday. So Tuesday is like the slog day.
Did you always take Friday off back in the college days? Optional Friday.
Whether you had a class or not.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Nick, I usually took Monday through Friday off. There were stretches where I didn't go to class for like a week.
You're like,
I was like, man, I'm
not feeling it this week.
That campus is a long way away. And then you got to find parking.
Yeah.
And then you got to walk to class.
Yeah. Like, what class are you missing? English? Well, I already know it, so I'm just going to stay in.
I would have been fantastic if I could have taken everything online. I think I would have been more productive.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I struggled in the classroom.
Well, remember,
my attention span sucked.
Online classes were weird. So I did some of my core classes when I was going to UNO. I actually did some Metro classes too.
Yeah.
And that was all online. And it was the weirdest thing because it was still such a novel idea. Like,
way of the future.
What am I doing? Now it's like.
That's true.
You actually show up?
Late 90s, maybe? You were doing that?
I live on campus. Yeah, that would have been like 2000.
Wow.
I think 2000 is when I took my first online class. I'm like,
so we're still watching
where's
the real
the teacher
player.
at? How do I get a hold of them? Oh, I email them. We get emailed all these notes and stuff. Okay, this is weird. Then we just show up at a designated place, take a test, and you have like essentially Thursday or Friday to do it. And as long as you do it in that 48-hour span, you're good.
Welcome in, everybody. We are off and running on a Tuesday with all of you. It is Northern Iowa week around here for Nebraska and a ranked team out of the FCS. So this is actually a ranked on ranked matchup.
Top 25 matchup.
Ooh,
yeah.
Who would have thunk that before the season?
If you didn't know, if you listen to Matt Rule, you knew now.
It is a morning after we had scoregami last night in the NFL. San Francisco defeated the Jets 32-19. Not the most scintillating game in the world to kick off Monday Night Football, but we got Aaron Rodgers. I
got a half with Belichick. Matters.
I have to say that I enjoy watching Aaron Rodgers sling it around. I may not agree with a lot of his beliefs. We may have difference of opinions. He is fascinating to me because as his Netflix special coming out in December is called Enigma. I enjoy watching Aaron Rodgers play football. And he was okay last night. They need more from him, and they need more from the Jets. But that Niner offense looked good. And you knew that game was going to be a mismatch when the two head coaches walked on the field. I mean, Kyle Shanahan and that offense against Robert Saleh.
Every time I see Robert Saleh on the sideline, there's a little bit of that lost in the moment look. Just a little bit of that. Oh, God, especially on third downs. I don't know why. For some reason last night, every third down, they would go to the sideline and show Robert Saleh before the play, almost like, but let's see how confident he is of what his team is about to execute.
Yeah, major mismatch when it comes to coaching last night. But the Niners wrap up the first week of the NFL with a win over the Jets. The Jets' defense was not good.
Yeah.
I would say I used the word placid. I think I told somebody when we were watching the game last night. I said very, very placid and uncharacteristic because as bad as their offense was last year, the defense was pretty good. But that San Francisco offense, even without McCaffrey, that is a banger of an offense. And remember,
until the Super Bowl,
Ayuk didn't play very well.
Yeah.
Last night, they still put up 32.
And Jordan Mason. How many people are picking him up in fantasy?
Well,
I mean, and I know obviously CMC is going to be back, but I think not a bad dude to have right there.
Now, that is the story of what happened last night. And it's not necessarily what he did carrying the football. But I think it's what he did, what he said in his interview with Lisa Salters on the field. Sometimes you're not supposed to say something out loud. And so he said something out loud, and I imagine the NFL went, uh-oh. Because Jordan Mason told Lisa Salters that he was told on Friday that he was starting.
Yeah.
They did not rule out Christian McCaffrey because of his calf until about an hour before kickoff. Now, for all of you fantasy owners out there and managers, that is a major problem because he was probably the number one guy in your draft.
Yep.
And it may have screwed you last night. But if you had Jake Moody, Jake Moody went 6 of 6 with field goals. But so McCaffrey is ruled out. Kyle Shanahan don't care about your fantasy team, even though I would like one time for a coach to go, hey, how'd everybody do? How'd everybody do this week?
I mean, I would say we're getting close to that, but the fantasy world it's not like it continues to evolve to greater heights. It's huge. So I'd like to think that it would have been done by now. There's got to be a coach out there that's at least thought about it.
There's players
afterwards.
that'll say, hey, draft me in fantasy. Or there'll be fans that get after players for sucking in fantasy.
Yep.
I was terrible this week. Dalton Kincaid, you're dead to me.
Yeah, I wasn't good either.
How'd I get a tight end that didn't even get 2 points?
I had Joe Burrow. That's all you need to know.
All you got to know is Joe Burrow 1-8 in weeks 1 and 2.
But
I think handcuffed by his head coach.
You can't say
Maybe
that
needs
here.
another
You can't
Husker
say that.
quarterback
You can't say
as
that in
coach.
Nebraska.
I say a lot of real things.
Can't say that
I don't
in
think Zach Taylor's a great NFL coach.
That was the popular person of, if it never worked out, would Zach Taylor ever be available to be the head coach at Nebraska?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Probably not.
There's an alternate reality that's sad.
There's pressure on him this year. I mean, Cincinnati, check when the last time Cincinnati was in the postseason.
Well, yes, that was more than 2 years ago. And
no, they almost got a Super Bowl. I fully understand that. And they won an AFC championship game at Arrowhead. But there's just something.
Tasted good.
Cincinnati is good, but they should be better. And they're 1-8 in their first 2 weeks. So, I mean, I feel bad for it. Now he's got to go against the Chiefs.
Yeah. So should I not start him? I got Justin Herbert as well.
I would start him.
Maybe start Justin Herbert.
Who's he playing?
Look at you giving fantasy advice.
Hey,
I got Justin Herbert.
If I had to
should I sit?
If I had to readjust, like every Tuesday morning we come in here and you get to readjust who you think's going to win the Super Bowl or who's going to play in the Super Bowl.
Right.
I would have an all-California Super Bowl right now.
Niners?
The Chargers worry me.
Okay.
Jim Harbaugh's formula.
That's fair.
Joe Alt, what he did to Mason Crosby.
That was lineman porn, by the way, on Twitter.
J.K. Dobbins is a perfect running back for the Harbaugh system.
Yes, he is.
The Chargers worry me. The rest of the division, punt on 4th and 1. And let's hire a guy that the players wanted. Good job, Raiders. But I would go with the Chargers and the Niners to play in the Super Bowl.
Niners.
If I'm just going after week number 1.
30 years after they played.
And remember, I'm also doing this as I don't think the Chiefs are going to have a three-peat.
No.
And I might be doing it to self-jinx or whatever.
You still have them in the Super Bowl. You just don't.
No, I can't lose in the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
That COVID year was bad.
Okay, I got you.
But there's the other part of now. So it's not only the fantasy.
Hell, I'd put the Cowboys in there right now.
No, they're.
Did you see who they played?
Yeah, they're not good, but the
you
Cowboys
see who they
are.
Do you see who owns them?
Well, yeah. Cowboys, though.
Charlie Brown. Oh, maybe she's going to hold the ball this time, and I'm going to kick a 50-yarder.
I'm just going off. I'm
she
just going off
moved the ball
who
again.
looked really good in week 1, and then to your point though, who looked really, really bad? Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns, and then Deshaun and
No, it's gotten worse in Cleveland with Deshaun Watson.
Yes, it has.
Nick, the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while.
You guys noticed I didn't mention Chicago.
All right.
Well, you won.
Yeah.
Hey, special teams and defense.
But the other part of last night of Jordan Mason saying what he said after the game, where I think the Niners are in trouble. Because if you listen to what he said on the field, which nobody knew, I mean, people were scrambling to figure out who Jordan Mason is.
Yeah.
And you're like, why is this guy carrying the ball nearly 30 times in the game, and the Jets can't stop him?
Mm-hmm. Well, they got a good offensive line, too.
All of the Niners in the postgame, so somebody must have been listening and got to Shanahan and Mason and other players and were like, no. He was not told on Friday.
Yeah.
This was a last-minute decision because there's also the betting part of this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Niners covered yesterday.
Yeah.
And again, they were dominant, and they seemed like every time you looked up, the Niners had the football. But there is the betting aspect of this. We're not talking about, Alex Johnson at running back. We're talking about Christian McCaffrey. I wonder if the NFL steps in.
I'd be interested.
They're like, okay, your running back said he was told he was going to start on Friday. You guys didn't announce it till an hour prior to kickoff?
Yeah. And you're right, with the line itself, it's a moot point. It was a 3.5-point line, I think, by kickoff. You get that. See, that would have been interesting to see if that is made public at some point before Sunday, say on Friday. That I'm not saying Christian McCaffrey gives you a 2-point swing, but that probably brings it down under a field goal. Even though, again, the Jets were really no contest there. And Jordan Mason, good for him, took advantage of the opportunity. But I'd be curious what that line would have been. From 3.5, would you get to maybe 2.5? Because I think Christian McCaffrey's that good, especially the way they use them offensively.
Agree. So, Jimmy, you watched the Manning cast last night?
I did. It was wonderful.
I did a little bit.
Well, I watched the first half. When I saw the second half guest, I was like,
So I wanted to see Sandler.
Mm-hmm.
I've told you guys before, I'm more of the Happy Gilmore Sandler. And I understand you get to a certain point in your age, you don't have the energy to do that. So I'm not knocking Adam Sandler for not being that guy.
Veronica Vaughn's still hot,
but it's just still it falls flat with. Now you saw him stand up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was good.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has a Netflix, I think, right now. We need to watch.
Yeah, I'd like to. I need to get back. I need to get more inundated with Adam Sandler because again, that it was just kind of clunky. And that's the thing with the Manning cast is when they've had guests. Bill Belichick was great. But when they have guests,
football porn,
and they're trying to do other things other than football, and there's a little bit of that delay, it really screws with it.
Yeah, I only watch the Manning cast when there's no guests on.
I remember
that's
just
their
let
best.
Eli and Peyton cook.
Yeah.
And they had Chris Jones on last night. They had Sandler, and of course they had Belichick, who was going to be on there every week.
Yeah, I said at least be on next week.
But you've got because of.
You're right about the Mannings, though.
Some of the technical glitches, and they have leg issues. The interviews while the game is going on seem disjointed, and that bugs the crap out of me. But I love to hear just Peyton and Eli by themselves. I think that show could survive without guests.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Just two guys sitting there breaking it down.
Or you compromise and do one guest.
It's funny in that business how the success of the Mannings has driven Tom Brady to jump into broadcasting because of his rivalry with Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
He may not admit that out loud, but Tom Brady doesn't want to lose to Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
And the Mannings have been dominant. Now all of a sudden you have the Kelseys who have come along and they've entered that world. And the Kelseys might be more popular than the Mannings.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Tom Brady on the side. I love this competition that's going on. But with the Manning cast, Eli and Peyton together are great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, Peyton is fantastic.
Peyton was on one last night.
I just don't like the guests take away because there's the technical issues, there's the leg issue, and so it is disjointed. But the leg issues are really it's not only the Manning cast. Man, I'm going to go nuts with my YouTube TV and my regular cable. It seems like it is getting further and further behind.
I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you have both. And if I had cable and I'm getting it as close to real time as possible, YouTube TV would drive me crazy. And that's my only option. That's all we have. We don't have cable.
Mhm.
I mean, we're completely YouTube TV. So I don't know any better. But if I had in one
But
room,
your YouTube TV is not behind.
it's behind big time.
Okay,
That's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
I don't know any better because I don't
Bears
have any.
just won.
I don't have another. I don't have another TV going on somewhere else. It's like cable. So I can be like, wait a minute, it's how far apart? But when I'm on Twitter during a game and I'm seeing things that are happening, I'm like, this hasn't happened yet. I'm like, oh gosh.
So do you have to choose, Gary, which one you watch on a given night or game?
I mean, I'll have a TV on in the bedroom, and then a TV on in the man cave, and then the office sometimes as I wander around. And they're all on different. They'll be at different points. But so that bugs me because I like to in-game gamble. And then I also have notifications on score notifications.
Yeah.
So like I jumped over to the Royals game last night, the Royals and the Yankees, and Wells had hit a home run on my phone, but it yet had not appeared on my TV.
Yeah.
And it was still about a pitch and a half. But that's like when you get guests on the Manning cast, they have that leg issue. So they ask him a question before the play, but the guest doesn't get it until the play is going on.
Yeah.
And then they're talking over a play. Just a personal preference.
It does.
I just think let Eli and Peyton cook on that show.
Yeah, I'm now Belichick, and when they get football people of a certain ilk too, like when Bill Belichick, they can either look at the game talk, but also trade stories of when Bill Belichick, or if you get a former coach or someone that had to scheme against either one of them or both in this case, those are fun because they all draw off of each other, and it's a very natural conversation. I feel like when you get the celebrities, whether it be actors or comedians, I feel like sometimes Eli and Peyton are trying to draw it out of them a little bit because that's not their world. That's not their stage or forum that they're going to be the most comfortable under. I mean, even Adam Sandler, I know, again, a lot of people I loved old Adam Sandler. At times that was kind of painful.
Did he go into any characters?
No, not really. No, he broke down Peyton's attempt to do the Happy Gilmore swing and stuff. So again, it was a lot of the cliche things. But
to Joe Buck.
Is Peyton in Happy Gilmore too?
No, not that they teased anyway. But he just
they're making a second one.
Yeah.
Why am I not surprised?
They talked about it too, and
I think they've already started shooting.
Yep.
Because the guy who is on my TV 24/7, 365 now, Travis Kelce, is in it.
Oh, is he? Okay.
And they've already filmed his part before training camp starts.
I hope Uncle Vern's in it again. He was a star of that film.
I'll see it, but I don't have high expectations. It's just not the same. It's not the same Adam Sandler. It's fine. There's a world that probably doesn't appreciate Happy Gilmore as much as like we did. So they're going to try to reintroduce that to the younger people. But make no mistake, I mean, this is still going to be more popular with people like us because we know what Happy Gilmore is. It's not going to deliver like the first one did, but if you go in low expectations with a tired old Adam Sandler, it should be fun.
Movie that I am not going in with low expectations. I am all in on the Joker.
Another one, yeah.
That's going to be good.
It's going to creep you out. They've started to release more and more.
Yep.
He's going to win an award for that.
The Joker's
a psychotic character to play,
and he does it well.
You know what's amazing though, and God rest his soul, we have Heath Ledger to thank for that. And I know Jack Nicholson was. Sorry, Jack Nicholson.
He could do everything.
Jack Nicholson,
he's the only guy
he just wasn't
in the
cut
green
for it.
jacket that played in a Batman movie.
Or a purple jacket. But Jack Nicholson, he did a good job. He was creeping his own way in the Tim Burton series, but Heath Ledger took that to another level that I feel like that's the standard. And so you got to match that, which is awesome because everybody's trying to match that. It's great.
All right, Bruin Steve says, having direct TV, I didn't need to worry about it due to the current dispute. Made it easy last night to catch up on the only murders in the building.
Yeah, I got to wait till that's all released.
Sneaky good show.
Yeah, I liked it.
The direct TV thing, I don't understand, but it's a pain in the butt for many, many people at the wrong time of the year with your football on your TV.
Mm-hmm.
And direct TV and ESPN are in a contest.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, actually, against UTEP, I was on Twitter during the game. You had tweeted out something. I think it was the first pick or something, and it hadn't happened on my TV yet. And I saw you come across my timeline. And I think it just said that's a pick or something. Something either was close, but it was like, okay, that's. Oh no, it was I think it was the touchdown right before halftime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're like, I can't remember what your tweet was, but it hadn't happened yet. I'm like, oh, and so in a way, it's like, oh, something cool's coming. So there is that part of it, like, all right, but then it's like, damn it, I don't want to be tipped off.
I was a spoiler.
You were a spoiler. Now you don't know who's watching between the cord and not.
You know who is either the fastest tweeter in the history of that website is Rob Anderson.
Oh yeah.
So, like, he is way ahead of everybody else. Now, all these events he's watching in person.
Yeah, because he's right there.
Yeah. I always am amazed by, he'll have tweets out, and that hasn't happened yet on what I'm watching.
Even on cable.
You know what? It even happens when I'm in person watching a Creighton game. Rob's already tweeted out that Shireman hit a corner 3, and Shireman hasn't even let the ball go yet.
Yeah, Shireman hasn't checked in yet.
And I'm like, holy cow. Rob, wait, would you like to go to Vegas with
You're
me?
the prophet, yeah. He's like Alan.
All right, welcome in, everybody. We're off and rolling on a Tuesday, the 10th of September. Coming up on the show, Sam McCune of the World Herald is going to join us. Also, there's a big event going on tonight at the Coliseum. Not the Coliseum.
Oh, that would be sweet.
I was like, did I
that
miss
would be
this?
a throwback. It actually would be kind of, well, they could kind of configure it. I mean, it looks completely different. I don't know why I said the Coliseum. The Devaney Center tonight for the first time, a top 10 matchup. 6th straight year that both Nebraska and Creighton have been ranked. It is a marquee for volleyball in the state. Number 5, Nebraska. Number 9, Creighton meet. So you have a distraction or a preference tonight, because there will be other things that will be on your television screen. Lincoln Arneal will join us coming up at 8:30 to break it down, and then Brian Christopherson stops by at 9. That is the lineup brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard. It is Northern Iowa week. Nebraska with their last Big Ten tune-up before they head into conference play. House divided. How we doing at the Handleys? Are you talking to your wife? Have you avoided her?
She's
Have
just
you compromised?
She's just excited that her new Northern Iowa gear showed up on time, I think, and that the fact that it fits okay. Other than that, she has no grand illusions that anything crazy is going to happen Saturday. She's just excited to have a chance to see her alma mater.
You picked your outfit yet?
Locally.
Gotta go with the red shorts. 85 degrees.
I might do the red Adidas golf shorts, and I think I'm gonna go black.
Okay.
I mean, it's gonna be warm that night.
All right.
But I think I'm gonna go with the black Husker long sleeve.
Well, what point do you guys not talk to each other because the rivalry has escalated? She's saying, "Wait till you see Tyler Edwards run over Ty Robinson."
I mean, she's been talking about them averaging 275 yards on the ground. She's like, "You think you guys can run the ball? You wait till you see us. You wait. Have you seen our rush defense? Oh hell, we're gonna bring it." That St. Thomas thing was a fluke. Messed around a little bit with them.
Is she talking smack about people that graduate from Nebraska with a teacher's degree compared to Northern Iowa? Like, hey, you tried to get into District 66. If I got Northern Iowa compared to Nebraska, I'm getting in.
Who do you think they're going to choose in that interview process? Yeah, that's right. Come talk to me. Yeah.
Matt Rule spoke yesterday.
Contentious.
Matt Rule yesterday. His standard is higher than your standard in what he said yesterday.
I like his hoodie.
Also, late last night, Nebraska got a monster pickup. Christian Jones, whose dad Dave played at Nebraska, Omaha West Side, two-way player, going to play linebacker at Nebraska, says yes to Nebraska. Does that open the faucet for more recruits? That's a huge pickup for Nebraska. I don't care what websites say in this state, because those websites don't watch games in the fall when they turn on the lights and turn on the scoreboard. He's the best player in the state of Nebraska. That's a monster pickup for Nebraska, as Christian Jones committed out of Omaha West Side last night. And as much as we like to knock Dion, by the way, they got a stiff test this weekend. They go to Fort Collins.
Mm-hmm.
You imagine?
Let's go Rams.
You imagine all the chirping that got in the head of Colorado. They're going to be in Fort Collins. They're playing a true road game. They don't play that game at the home of the Broncos anymore.
They never go
They
there
are
either.
playing at Colorado State. It's a smaller venue. People are going to be chirping.
Mm-hmm.
That's a dangerous game for CU. But yesterday, whether you want to knock Dion or not, I'm going to stand for him, because there was an absurd allegation about how he told the band at Colorado to play Shadur's song and not the fight song.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
You can dislike Dion until the cows come home. That was an old person phrase that was used by
I
my
love it.
grandfather.
I got it. Shout out Cows.
That is absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
That I don't even believe that. There's no way
Really?
that happened. And Deion fought back against it. But you know what it does? It keeps Deion in the conversation. But watch that game on Saturday at Colorado State.
Yeah.
You know, they've had fights like Colorado and Colorado State fans have fought in the stands. Like they shut it. Didn't they shut the rivalry down for a few years because of that?
They had the smoke or tear gas at Mile High about 25 years ago or so. It gets nasty. That Coors Light, that Coors Heavy is flowing.
And with what happened last year between how close that game was in Colorado winning in overtime, but remember the Prime and Norvell back and forth a little bit.
Remember Mark Jones.
And again, Norvell, he doubled down on it again, I think in the offseason as well. He stands by what he said. And so we talk about it a lot with Nebraska and Matt Rule of you sort of take your cues after your coach as far as how you feel about certain things in your program or certain opponents. I don't think you need Deion Sanders if you're Colorado State, to be fired up, especially when you're, like you pointed out, you're actually playing that one in Fort Collins and not in Denver. But what happened last year too, and we've seen the type of angst it can draw to a crowd. Yeah, that's going to be a hornet's nest.
Doesn't matter if Colorado wins or loses. TVs like them. I saw that Big Fox picked up Baylor, Colorado the following week. Going to play that game in primetime.
Yep.
Hey, Nebraska threw what might be the knockout punch against Colorado in the Deion Sanders era. Colorado State can push them off the ledge. They can push them off Pikes Peak if they beat them, because Nebraska exposed them and punched them down, and people are like, okay, yeah. They've lost 9 of the last 10 against FBS teams. They're not a very good football team that lost to Nebraska when the quarterback didn't play decent.
Yeah. You'll get better.
All right, that's the lineup brought to you by the Roofery's at John Higgins Weather Guard. Lots to get in with all of you. Sam McEwen joins us in less than an hour. But first, here is Mike on the 42 Degree The Source hotline. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, good morning. How are you guys?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Good. Hey, all right. Hey, it feels good to be relevant again, doesn't it? That just feels nice for Nebraska to feel relevant.
Hey, how many people did you know Mike had their voice was hoarse when you ran into him yesterday?
A lot.
Yeah,
and over here in Iowa too. Here's why. This is the reason why I really called. I was at a buddy's house. I live in Iowa. You guys know that. Yep. I was at a buddy's house watching Iowa State Iowa game, and my buddy's wife's on the phone, and we got stream. They had stream TV, and my buddy's wife's on the phone getting ready to kick that final field goal, and the wife on the phone says he made it. And we hadn't seen it on TV yet, and everybody just looked over on the phone like it was brutal. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
That would be a bad one right there, because we're not talking about a chip shot. We're talking about a 54-yard field goal right there.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's like all around, and they're just like staring at the TV, and the wife's on the phone. Oh, he made it! He made it!
Oh,
yeah. So, anyway,
well, that's
all right, guys.
That's good. All right, Mike. Thanks for the phone call. My mailman Todd, ran into him yesterday. He said his voice is hoarse.
Talked to a gentleman yesterday too. Said, "Yep, my voice is a little shaky because of that game Saturday." I'm like, yeah, I think everybody's feeling the effects of that. That's a good thing, though.
Hey,
I think Matt Rule was feeling it. Matt Rule had a little bit of
you look a little spent.
He had kind of a scratchy voice yesterday as well. And he had really slugged that Diet Pepsi, much to your chagrin.
Everybody,
it's not a prop for him. It's not like the Mountain Dew bottle. It's not a prop for him. I mean, he utilizes it.
I love how many members of the media bring in Coke products. Like Nebraska knows. Nebraska knows that nobody wants Pepsi, and so they're like, "Hey, I get it,"
But no coffee for him. He slugged it at least 3 or 4 times yesterday too. So,
well, he probably slugged some beers back in the day when he brings up kegs and eggs at 9 a.m.
Delicious.
I love that. 9 a.m. kegs and eggs football. Let's go. Who doesn't want that, though?
Been a long time since I drank before 9 a.m.
Oh, I bet you have on a flight, right? If you're going on vacation or something.
An 11 a.m. game?
An airport?
I usually don't drink on a flight.
Never had an airport one before 9 a.m.?
Only if it's a long flight and I want to sleep.
You're seated next to the bathroom?
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't want to say a sedative, but it's a relaxer. Depending on how many you have.
So are muscle relaxers.
Yeah, I mean, essentially.
What would even a 9 a.m. game in Lincoln look like?
Depends on the opponent.
It'd be a little cool outside.
No, I don't care about the opponent. 9 a.m.
It would be a
Well, you're a youth baseball coach. What are
your-
these 9 a.m. games like?
Oh, they suck. As far as
The three of us would be wide awake by the time the game kicks off.
Yeah, that's true. Like all the morning workers,
Great.
Yeah.
like the 7 to 3ers, would love the 9 a.m. kick.
We'd already be drinking.
all the real laborers, they'd be ready for that one. See, this is different with college guys, though. I would say
They like to sleep.
with my
Yeah,
experience.
there ain't no chance people are getting up at 9 a.m. The student section would be
it'd be a late
it'd be
arriving.
barren.
Yeah, it'd be a very late arriving crowd.
All the media.
They'd have
people
to
could sit there.
entice them with stuff like
They wouldn't be
They'd have
waiting
to-
there at 7 a.m.
yeah, they'd have to entice them like with kegs and eggs
Yes, they would.
to come to the stadium.
Yeah, upon entry,
You know what would have been
here's your
great?
beer garden.
You know what would have been great for this game is do a true throwback. I mean, I'm with Rule. Let's play at 9 a.m. There's no reason this game should be at night. This should have been the true throwback game. Wear whatever kind of uniforms you want to wear. Play the game at 1:05.
Yes.
And there's no television.
Radio
Yeah.
only.
Would you pay-per-view option it?
Nope.
No.
Although that's a good argument for Nebraska.
Force
They could
people
get
to
away
buy
with it.
tickets.
That's true. Okay. All right. So your only way to see this game is in person or listen to the radio.
At 1:05.
That's all there is.
No TV timeouts. It'll be over by 4.
Oh, you would drive a lot more fans then. That is 100% the way to do that. But what would be the earliest that you could kick off a game in the Central Time Zone? I mean,
10.
10, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. UT and A&M was at 10 for several years in the 90s.
Wouldn't that be a good 10 a.m. game?
Mm,
I mean, they're up at 6 a.m. They do morning workouts. It wouldn't be all that crazy for them. It'd be a little bit more of a fan, bring your own energy type
Yeah,
of
you'd be
atmosphere.
done.
you'd be done so you could watch all of the 2:30 games.
Yes. I mean, even the players and the coaches could do that.
Boy, how irate would the business owners in Lincoln be? They're like, hey, special. The Big Ten is forcing us to play at 10 a.m.
On a
Make the
Friday.
most of it. After the game, celebrate downtown.
We're going to do this. We're going to roll out this. Foxes really want us to roll out this 24 hours of college football. We got the 10 a.m. slate on Friday.
What's better, a 10 a.m. game or a 10 p.m. game on the West Coast?
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Yep. 10 a.m. game on the West
Because
Coast.
I'm pretty crotchety by 7 o'clock.
But I think the 10 a.m. game would be boring. The 10 p.m. game,
Well,
Big Ten after
yeah.
dark, would get a little crazy.
Big Red over it. Hey, I remember the Fresno State game, the Des Moines Personnel.
Was that
game.
9 o'clock?
Yeah, 9 o'clock. I remember that game getting over. I think Omaha bars were closing at 2 at that point, but the place I was at was essentially as soon as the game's over, we're closing down. But it was a little after 1.
Yeah, I did Big Red Overreaction that night.
You stayed here.
And my partner that night was like, hey, let's go drink some Patron.
Oh.
So Big Red Overreaction did not get over until like 1:15. We happen to have a bar that's right around the corner from the station.
Yeah.
And so we called them and said, hey, are you open? And they're like, you know what? The crowd's kind of thinning out. We're going to close. And we're like, give us 5 minutes and we'll be there.
Wait, Big Red overreactions over at 1? No, the game would have got over right around.
No, what we like? No, because we were.
Or did you guys do like a quick one? Because it would have been like what 12:30, or it was like between 12:30 and 1. With that
Yeah,
thing
we were done. Oh, it might have been 1:45 because we walked in and we told them what we wanted, and we walked up to the bar and it was there. Boom, and then went home.
That's the way to do it.
Like I'm all about having I love that you go like, you know what, it's a late one.
I miss the late Big Red overreactions.
Patron.
You could either go pound a beer real quick or go to Denny's. I only go to Denny's when it's dark out. There is no reason to go to Denny's when it's daylight.
There are too many better breakfast options when you're actually having breakfast.
Like the Embassy Suites.
It's just like when I go to Taco Bell. I typically do that when I'm coming back from a hockey game just because I'm lazy. Like, it's there.
See, I think that would be my branding. Hey, if you're hungover or you're going home from the bars or it's late at night, we're open for you.
We got you.
It should be.
But between
it would hit.
There's 2 hours out of the day where our food is the best.
Yeah.
The other 22, we just throw our arms up in the air.
Yeah, we're like, whatever.
We got to stay open.
Yep, absolutely.
Off and running. We'll talk some football and a huge, huge volleyball match tonight in Lincoln between Nebraska and Creighton. Who would be the favorite? Who would be the favorite for this? Nebraska's never lost to Creighton. I wonder if Nebraska looks forward to playing Creighton. We'll see. That's coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. Wow, just watching more of the Jordan Mason post game from last night. He's the running back. When Christian McCaffrey was ruled out, Jordan Mason was the starting running back and had a huge night. Most people have no idea who he is, doesn't talk to the media. He got interviewed after the game, said he was told on Friday that he was going to start. The Niners went into panic mode. Kyle Shanahan denied it. Then Jordan Mason spoke to the media. Man, I feel bad for the kid because
it's an exciting moment.
He was honest about everything and respectful. And then this is the fault of the Niners for what they did to him, because now he feels bad that he told the truth in an interview.
How many of those guys do you think, especially guys that are in Jordan Mason's position, know the protocol of when things can be reported and how a team is going to go ahead and announce certain things too? So, and even if that was announced publicly, essentially at 5:00 yesterday, that you realized by saying, yeah, I knew I was going to be getting this opportunity on Friday. I was preparing as such, because you're talking more about how you prepared in a very short window of time. And, that's part of the story. That's part of, on top of having a great night, I would assume half of a roster, if even that. I mean, there might even be more of a roster that wouldn't realize that.
I think the NFL will find the Niners.
They should.
What are they more likely to investigate, the Tyreek Hill situation or this?
Oh,
probably this.
It's on brand.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL always has news.
Yep.
All right, they don't play for a couple of days. They always have news. So yesterday in the news conference, Matt Rule in Lincoln is built differently than you and I. Nebraska is getting ready to play you and I, a team that is ranked 21 in the FCS, who at times has given the Iowa States and the Iowas of the world trouble. And the best thing that happened to teams like Nebraska and other teams that are playing competition that is not Power 4 is Notre Dame. Because Notre Dame took Northern Illinois for granted. They got beat up in a brawl, and they lost a game that has probably ended any chance they can go to the playoff. You can't have Notre Dame in the playoff by losing to Northern Illinois.
No.
I mean, what are we talking about here? So I think that will be used as a motivation or just a reminder. If you are not playing a Power 4 team this weekend, anything can happen. And Northern Iowa has caused some problems for teams in the past. I don't think this is a great Northern Iowa team, but they're going to be well coached and they will play hard and they will run the ball and it will be a quick game. So just to show you how the head coach in Lincoln is probably built different than us, everybody is still basking in 2-0, that they were in football heaven on Saturday night with all the atmosphere and the vibe. And then Matt Rule steps up yesterday and starts going into what we would maybe think of minor details that bugged the crap out of him, that he was edgy yesterday. I think he sent a message to his team that it's Northern Iowa week and the Big Ten starts next week, and we got some things to work on. All I know is a sense of urgency on a team that wants to win and doesn't want to get fat and happy when they're 2-0. If my name is Isaiah Nayor, Jamal Banks, Ed Foley, Garrett McGuire, or Camden Watucky, I would be on alert this weekend, because you were either directly or indirectly called out yesterday by your head football coach when you're like, whoa, catching a stray. We're 2-0, bro.
Yeah. I loved everything he had to say yesterday, because I kept thinking to myself after Saturday of, man, this week, it was so much fun last week in what we do and being able to talk about and build up that game that really didn't need any build up and how that environment's going to be. You go through it. Nebraska ends up winning. You feel great. You see some of the benefits of what took place. You get the rankings and all that stuff. But then I have no problem saying this. I think it's just probably how a lot of people feel. There's sort of a flat feeling of, man, it would love to roll that right into conference play. That'd be awesome. But you got an FCS opponent. And yeah, to their credit, they have been able to show up against certain teams and at times beat them. Not say to the tune like North Dakota State, but there's a little bit of that. After the game, Matt Rule said, he was excited. He expected that to happen. He knows there's things to work on, but he also gets to enjoy the victory. That's the best part about it. It seemed like Sunday, I think two things it served is, yes, I think you're absolutely right. This is the tone going through the media that's also being sent to the team. You're motivating your team through your public address, essentially. But I think they did see some things in that game that I think the vibe I got, I think it truly did piss off Matt Rule that game was not 45-10.
I don't know how you use the word piss off. That's awful harsh.
Disappointed.
Well, I mean, I think so. He's been confident in this football team. He goes there. You don't go there with certain things, either good or bad, if you don't have a good vibe of your team. And I think he has an extremely good vibe. And he's very confident and he's very comfortable with his team. I think the confidence and the comfortability are on the same level. But an honest evaluation of where they're at. Because I think when you listen to him yesterday, he knows that this team can be better than maybe what they think they can be.
Yeah.
Like he sees something that maybe they haven't embraced or haven't achieved yet, but he knows that it's out there. And you don't wait until week 6 after a loss. Why not have an honest evaluation after week 2, after a win where people are still on a high? I mean, that person, my mailman Todd, he may not get his voice back till Friday, but you can't wait till Friday. He's also somebody I would like to have. No offense to Walt Sharp, because I think he was a B dad. I guess he's still my dad.
B as in grade or as in the animal?
Yeah, there's some things back in the history of like he could have done better for me. Okay. Like why wasn't his athletic genes better? Okay, so he's downgraded from that.
I got you.
But I think if I had Matt Rule as a parent, I would really like that, because Matt Rule has a subtle thing where he can call guys out, but he doesn't throw guys under the bus.
Yeah.
That's what leadership is. Mm-hmm. The quarterback in Colorado is not a leader at all. Talent, no leader. Mm-hmm. Man's not a leader. Listen to him speak. But you can call somebody out and do it in a way where that person doesn't feel like crap. And it's like he has a way of doing this. He's a very good orator. He can call somebody out, but it makes you feel good. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I would have loved that as a parent.
Yeah, no. So
my dad left the discipline to my mom. When my dad would call me out, he'd be like, hey, "Dude, you can't swing at that pitch. That's an inside pitch."
Yeah.
He should have said, "You know what? If you swing a little bit sooner, you might go the opposite way."
Right.
Like Rule does that. That's quite the quality of a parent of 150 plus football players.
Some of my favorite coaches did exactly that. They would, if they singled you out, it was within practice, but you knew it was because they expected more out of you. And then when you did what was expected, you also got the reinforcement and you felt on top of the world. And not just for impressing your coach, but also knowing that you're doing your part for your team. That's the culture that's there. That I don't think there's going to be any denying that type of culture that Matt Rule has established. The part about, and he basically said what you brought up verbatim of it's where they should be, not where they want to be when it comes to where they are as a football program. And I think dwelling on the not where they want to be yesterday was really important for this week, because there is going to be so much of that, probably even up until Thursday or Friday, of the fans, the media, not being able to help ourselves, but go back to last Saturday and talk about how fun that was and the things that were really, really good about that game, where Matt Rule says, y'all are happy with 28-10. And he said it now on 2 separate occasions, post-game and then yesterday, that game could have been 40 or 50 points. And
boy, what if Nebraska would have hung a 50 burger on Colorado?
I thought it was coming.
They weren't far away from that. I
believe the governor would have canceled school and everything else on Monday.
You might still be in Lincoln.
I just think there were a lot of people who probably felt that as well when they're seeing that first half unwind, that there's going to be no slowing down. I also thought what he did with the narrative of, boy, Marcus Satterfield got conservative. That's where he took the approach of, no, we had stuff. It was guys not executing. We had stuff happening, as he talked about in selfish penalties because guys were afraid of getting beat. So again, that was challenging, and not because he had a score to settle, but I think he wanted that for this team. You're probably right. That maybe the better way to say it is he knows how good, he feels very confident how good this team is. And even with a win like that, because if you notice yesterday, he kind of went back and forth on this where he sort of stopped short or right after he said it, he said, we're going to face better teams.
You guys ever done that? You ever stop short?
Stop short.
When you're
I stopped short. It's one of the greatest moves ever. Oh, I stopped short. It's a good way to, okay. Maybe with the Deshaun Watson news, it's probably the best thing to say. But anyway. But
yikes.
Nick went violence with sexual assault allegations.
No.
And his point is, so did Deshaun.
Look at you. What do you got? A disgruntled fantasy owner?
No.
Okay.
No, nobody I know that has Deshaun. But
there's plenty of women out there that have made allegations. They don't want any Deshaun either.
Yes, exactly. The whole part of how he described Colorado yesterday.
Saying the truth. I mean,
no, you're not wrong. That is a bad deal, especially this last one too. Not that any of them were lesser, but dude might have Colorado, though, the way that he was describing Colorado, he said they'll have we'll play better teams, and then he kind of stopped like, or different situations. I think he knows exactly what that was all about. He always tries to take the high road with all the competition that they have. So there were a lot of different things that I think you could ascertain from what he was saying yesterday, where of different narratives that were out there about that win, on how people viewed, first half compared to the second half, the type of team that they played. The bottom line is he made it abundantly clear that they've moved on from it. And there are things that they are addressing this week, because if they're to, I love what he said about the rankings too. Like, not where we want to finish. So again, there's a lot of things.
He's an even keel guy.
Yeah. And he talked about that too.
So that's with this football team that still feels like a 7-5 football team to me, with a chance to contend defense, staying even keel, really good. It's a man that watched film and pointed out details yesterday, like was specific. I think that's very curious. Not curious for the bad, but that just kind of shows you a football coach that things that ticked him off when he went back and looked at the film. Like, he didn't see it in real time when you're talking after the game, but after watching film and then getting on the practice field. And I wonder what their practice was like prior to his presser yesterday, because he had a sense of urgency. Yeah. And I don't think it's just Northern Iowa week, that you're playing a team that everybody's going to pat you on the back all week and then go, hey, Saturday you should beat that team so bad that the human victory cigar grandstand could play.
I just love that description. It's a good nickname.
If he's in the game,
human victory cigar,
Nebraska's probably going to win.
But to your point, if we're talking about this team, we got in the conversation of new Nebraska, right? If we're getting to that point of, and he talked about the 3 phases of, learning how to not lose, playing winning football, and then playing championship football. And they're playing winning football according to Matt Rule, which I would say I think we'd all agree is accurate.
Yeah. They're 2-0, could be better.
Yep, absolutely. Part of not even saying championship football, but to solidify winning football, in my opinion, especially for this program, is, we've talked about this, is being able to look the part even against teams that you're much better, where you don't, the Notre Dame, Northern Illinois game, you don't mess around with the competition. You don't let that pull you into that type of mud where you're playing a team that is not nearly as talented, but is going to do certain things in a desperation situation of trying to limit your possessions, do everything they can to hang around in that game, that you're like, no, I get what you're trying to do, but we're doing our thing. This is about us. And it's games like this. This is where a lot of people are saying, I don't care about this game. And yeah, I get it. You and I doesn't.
Who's saying that we don't care about this game?
Well, as far as the emotional,
you only get 12 of these.
Right. But the emotion of this game is what I'm getting at.
Not in the Handley house. Not fun night.
Yeah.
Wait till your wife doesn't talk to you on Sunday.
We're gonna get the stone in the front yard.
Takes your kid and checks into a hotel because of what happens during the game.
That's a good thing he's not going to the game. That this game does have its significance of how this team handles it, in my opinion. And I got that from what I'm hearing from Matt Rule, but I also thought of, if you're looking at an FCS team what do you want to see out of Nebraska? What is going to be some of the optics that need to be present on Saturday? We talked about what they need to look like against UTEP coming out of the gate. Colorado game was its own thing. Hey, just win and let's have a party. This week is, do you look dominant from start to finish? Do you look dominant? Because you should be the dominant team. Because that has not always been the case. Even when Nebraska's gotten off to a start, you could always be like, yeah, they won, but didn't love this area. And I think a lot of those things that were illustrated by Matt Rule yesterday are things people need to really key in on.
I think they would like to win the game this weekend where they talk about the offense and not where the defense pitches a field goal or a touchdown and then you score 35.
Yep.
I think they'd like to talk about the offense scored 48 plus.
Yep.
All right, more on this. Sam McEwen's going to join us in about half an hour. Jimmy's got an update coming up in a bit. Lincoln O'Neill will join us a little bit later. Huge little event going on tonight in Lincoln. Because you got to clarify. There's
I know.
The presidential debate is tonight.
It's happening.
Everybody's talking about it.
It's happening.
How about that?
You know.
I know.
But Creighton and Nebraska volleyball play. Monster. Might be one of the best, if not, it's one of the best non-conference matchups in college volleyball this year. And there have been some bangers in the last 2 weeks. College volleyball is off to a great start. We'll get into that with Lincoln O'Neill coming up at 8:30. Brian Christopherson a little bit later as well on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Love that radon ad because it goes from haunting music to it sounds like the song Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield. I don't know how to take that. It's bad or it's good. Anyway, what is good is Noah Cameron was promoted from AA Northwest Arkansas to Omaha on July 28th. By the beginning of September, Cameron was selected as the International League Pitcher of the Month for August. Each of his first 6 starts for the Storm Chasers were quality starts. He went at least 6 innings, never allowing more than 3 runs in any of those starts. In those 6 starts, he threw a total of 31 and 1/3 inning, allowed 7 runs, struck out 46. That's a lot, and walked 8. His final start in August was a win over St. Paul when he struck out 10 and walked none in 7 innings at Werner Park. Speaking of Werner Park, they will host a baseball game today between the Storm Chasers and Toledo, 12:05. Good day for a game, aren't they all? Nebraska and Creighton volleyball at Devaney tonight, 7 o'clock on the BTN. Christian Jones must have loved him some drone shows. The state's top-rated prospect picked Nebraska over runner-up Oklahoma. Ha! Nebraska beats Oklahoma. It's like the old days after they beat Colorado. Long live the Big 8, which, anyway, the Sooners had made a strong push for his services. The 6'3", 215-pound Jones, a consensus 4-star commit, becomes the 19th commit for the 2025 class and the 6th commit for the great state of Nebraska. Pretty good night. Everything worked out Saturday for them. The Huskers, I mean.
I don't know anything, but I wonder if more are on the way. If they could lock up Dawson Merritt, who I think is a flip, when you stop talking to the Alabama recruiting writers, that's usually a pretty good sign. And he had a great weekend. If you got Christian Jones and Dawson Merritt in that linebacker room in a position of need, that'd be a nice little haul. But him committing this soon after this weekend, I wonder if we'll have maybe one more this week, but more on the way from this past weekend, where they had a nice little haul of recruits that were in town that have said positive things about football heaven that they were at on Saturday night.
It's those balloons that got them all in line. Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua aggravated a lot of injuries in week 1. Aggravated his knee injury against the Lions Sunday night. Will be placed on the injured reserve. He has a PCL sprain. No, not the Pacific Costa. That's the PCH. We will miss at least 4 games after being placed on the IR. That's too bad for him. He suffered the injury while making a catch midway through the second quarter of their dramatic 26-20 overtime loss to the Lions. He limped off the field and went into that infamous blue medical tent. Nacua later returned to the game for a short stint before exiting it. 4 catches and 35 yards in Sunday's game before the injury. He will not catch another pass for several weeks. The Green Bay Packers do not plan to put quarterback Jordan Love on injured reserve, which means they think recovery from his left knee injury will be on the shorter end of the timeline. They had Don Mikowski ready to go. In the meantime, they will prepare for the recently acquired Malik Willis to be their starting quarterback Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts. Green Bay traded a 7th-round draft pick to Tennessee for Willis the day before the final roster cuts last month. If he starts Sunday's home opener at Lambeau Field, he will do so just 20 days after he joined the Packers. He served as a backup in Friday's season-opening loss to the Eagles in Brazil. Hope they all make it back okay. I think they did. He took the final 2 snaps, an incompletion and a sack after Love sustained a sprained MCL in his left knee with 6 seconds in the 34-29 loss. Oh, Nick, this is too bad. Rookie wide receiver Roma Dunze sustained a left MCL sprain during the Bears' epic win over Tennessee on Sunday. He's considered week to week. We like Rome. If you watched Hard Knocks, and one of the few bright spots, a number 9 pick in the draft was injured while blocking on a play. He was scheduled to go an MRI yesterday afternoon. Bears coach, the Floof, said he was unsure when the injury occurred, probably thinking it was Sunday during the game, but was made aware of it during said game. Baseball, Pirates ace Paul Skeens. The Zone's Paul Skeens struck out 9 over 6 solid innings in a win Monday to bring his strikeout total for the year to 151, a franchise record for a rookie. The 22-year young Skeens at 10-2 allowed 1 run on 6 hits in a 3-2 win over the Miami Marlins, lowering his ERA to 2.10. The 6'6" right-hander fastball hit 100 miles an hour 6 times. He became just the 4th rookie to reach 150 strikeouts in 20 starts or less, joining greats Kerry Wood, Doc Gooden, Mark Pryor. Cy Blanton, of course, in 1935, previously held the record for most strikeouts by a Pirates rookie. And finally, last night in the baseball, we're getting to that time of the year. The Pirates defeated the Marlins 3-2. The Phillies beat the Rays in a World Series matchup or rematch. Won't be a matchup this year. The Rays are done. 2-1. The Reds defeat the Braves 1-0. The Yankees at the stadium defeat the Royals 10-4. The Royals now 79 and 66. How about the Mets? Grimace did wonders for them. 79 and 65 after they beat the Blue Jays 3-2. The Red Sox defeat the Orioles 12-3 to try to stay alive in the wild card race. Baltimore falls to 82 and 63. The Twins get beat at home, and that's been a rough few days for them. They lose to the Angels 6-2, and the Guardians continue to do their thing. They're 82 and 62 after defeating the now 33 and 112 Chicago White Sox 5-3. And finally, late last night, out at Dodger Stadium, the Cubs defeat the Dodgers 10-4.
Belly and Bush. Stayed up to watch that game. Ohtani stole a base. Ohtani's got 46 home runs and 47 stolen bases. For that guy who is a large man.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Don't talk don't talk about enough is how he moves fluidly in a body like that too. I mean, I'd essentially be Aaron Judge, who is a great athlete in his own right, but to be that type of size and be able to be that fast is kind of unfair.
Thanks, Jimmy. Final homestand of the regular season for the Storm Chasers. 12:05 today against Toledo. The Connor Happer Show will be out there, and then they go on the road. Then they come back and they have the International League Series, try and win a championship. So if you're looking for something to do this afternoon, the weather's going to be warm. Go out to the ballpark. We'll see you out there. I'll be out there. Connor Happer and Josh Hodson will be out there. Also, go to our website. It is up and it is active, and you want to win our 4-quarter pick'em.
Yes.
So our 25th anniversary of 1620 The Zone. People forget. People forget the day it started.
Years.
25K is on the line, but the best way, give you a little secret. Sign up for the 1620 The Zone email. Be in the email club, the VIP club. Get some bottle service. Sit behind the velvet ropes. You will have an advantage. But go to our website for more information. 4-quarter pick'em is up and rolling. And this is the first week of it, so you do not want to miss out on your chance to win some great prizes and maybe $25,000.
Yeah, of prizes. $2,500 on the line every week, too.
It's like Plinko.
Let me give you a little stat. You guys like stats?
Love stats. Stats are cool.
So Nebraska, when it comes to turnovers, you recall what they were through 2 games last year.
-5.
You sounded like what it sounds like outside during the summer.
Oh yeah, like the cicadas.
They were -6.
6, okay.
So through 2 games, Nebraska is +3. This is the best start through 2 games when it comes to turnovers since
2016.
Yes.
Everything goes back to 2016.
When Nebraska in 2016, thank you to Josh Allen, was a +7.
Oh yeah,
through the first 2 games. The Tommy Armstrong threw a pick against Wyoming, but people forget, especially in the NFL, the very jovial Nate Gary from Saturday night does not forget. But Nebraska picked off Josh Allen 5 times in that game in the second game of the 2016 season.
Yep.
But Nebraska was a +7 through the first 2. They're a +3 through the first 2 this year. Best start since. And I know people are wondering, what's Jeff Sims doing? I saw he got into the game against Wyoming. Arizona State crushed Wyoming.
Yep.
I was a little bit surprised, not by the victory by the Sun Devils, but the outcome. They beat them, 48-7?
Something like that.
Sims got in, didn't throw a pass. He ran the ball a couple of times.
Yeah. Let's keep that turnovers down. Hey, getting the snap, not fumbling the football. Those are all good things. He's in a backup role anyway. This is where I think he's going to be best suited too. Didn't have the weight of the world of starting at Arizona State. And you got a better quarterback in Sam Levitt, who I still find to be very, very ironic that was a guy at one point that Nebraska had on their radar as far as coming over to Nebraska before the Kyle McCord, who, by the way, had a good game for Syracuse too, and their upset win over then top 25 Georgia Tech.
He's had a good start.
Yeah, he has.
Would people take Kyle McCord over Dylan Raiola?
No.
951-1620.
Good for Kyle. Good for Jeff.
Bad look for Ryan Day.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. People forget because it's always the Georgia flip. People forget it was Ohio State at first. So, and then Kyle McCord. So, yeah, there's a little bit of that could have that guy. That guy could still be playing for you too.
I think Nebraska, Syracuse, and Ohio State are all very happy with their quarterback situation.
Yes. I don't think anybody's looking back. You're just like, hey, you know what? Good on them. Worked out well for them. We got ours. We're happy.
What do you think would be more likely to happen to yours truly? That James MacArthur of the Royals could get me out, or that I could throw a touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith of Ohio State?
I think you could throw a touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith of Ohio State. Because
have you seen James MacArthur pitch last night? They were up 4-3. The Royals were. Next thing you know, it's 10-4.
I did not watch the Royals game last night because I was sweating out to what was a pretty comfortable 5-0 cushion.
You almost threw a perfect game last night.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't count.
Joey Cantillo. Well, yeah, because it's the White Sox. I get that.
And there was nobody there.
That is also true. But still, the bullpen.
There were more people in my house
shaky
last night than were at the White Sox-Guardians game.
There's something about that series, though. And it doesn't really matter. So,
oh, that's right, because now you're 6-5 against the White Sox, right?
Yeah, I got over 500.
Guardians are going to win the division, and they're one game above 500 against the White Sox. That is mind-boggling.
Still got 2 more games in this series. Just saying. There's still a chance for them to dip below 500 in that one.
Well, the race for 125 is on. Do not let us down.
I won't. And I think hopefully Cleveland is zeroed in. When I went to that series, the last home series at Progressive Field when they were the Cleveland Indians, those actually I thought it'd be kind of a bigger deal. I thought there'd be a lot of Cleveland fans there. The White Sox were good that year too. That it was something every time I've gone, and I've been to, oddly enough, like 3 or 4 Cleveland White Sox, and they've been in various levels in their season where one team is always good, either trending to the playoffs. I've never been when both of them have been good. You really got to look back when both have actually been good. They never draw. And I was there on a Friday night. Did not draw well at all. That was the Friday, started the final homestand of them being the Cleveland Indians.
Mm-hmm.
And there were dozens of people at that game.
Bring back Comiskey Park.
Yeah. Call Progressive the Jake. Because Progressive Field still does it, even for a team that's leading the Central and is second overall in the American League record-wise. Other than weekends, they're not drawing that well. I don't know what it is. It saddens me because they had a little sellout streak when they were at Jacobs Field.
They were, didn't they sell it like the first 700 games?
Yeah, it was something like insane.
Because people love Kenny Lofton.
They do. I did.
Kenny Lofton's not playing for the Guardians anymore.
No.
Kenny Lofton could make a case for the Hall of Fame, but nobody ever talks about him.
Yeah. He played for about every team, too. I'm pretty sure he was a Cub at one point, too.
Who wasn't?
It's the same thing of who didn't Kenny Lofton play for.
All right, 7:21. Sam McEwen's going to join us here in a little bit. His thoughts on through the first 2 games and Northern Iowa this weekend. Northern Iowa likes to run the football. They average nearly 300 yards. They play a lot of 12 personnel, and they have a running back who is 6'3", 240 pounds.
That's big.
Will Nebraska make another opponent tap out on offense? We'll get into that and much more with Sammy Mack. He's coming up here in just a little bit on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, we kick off the morning. Sam McCune of the World Herald joins us. Good morning, Sam.
What's up, man?
You've been in Memorial Stadium a lot of times for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Where would Saturday night's vibe rank in games that you've covered in the old Grandma on 10th and Vine?
Really, really high. I think in terms of like just the whole start to finish, my colleague Evan Bland had a really good line that, he said, he's like, being down there on the field before the game is almost like you didn't realize how shallow you were breathing until you stepped out of it for a minute. So like there was a big game atmosphere, and it felt like a big stage. There's probably been games I've covered where the crowd was angrier, but I don't know that there's been a game where it felt like a festive mood. I would describe Saturday night as very similar to No Sit Sunday, of that feeling of like, man, it's a beautiful day. I'm excited to be here. Everybody wants to see everybody, and we're having a good time. It felt like that. It felt very, very festive and very fun. And they got a recruit out of it already, and they might get more.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. People forget about No Sit Sunday, that the rail yard was jam-packed because it was it was like 80 degrees that day.
Right.
And at the end of the basketball season where it could still be snowing. So, yeah, that's a good point. And on top of the atmosphere and what you took in from that, you think about how the game's going to play out. Because I was talking about leading up to this, a lot of people are making reference to 2014 Miami, and I said I was actually in the stands, not in the press box for 07 USC. And I remember the build up to that, the tunnel walk, kickoff. Place was as amped as I've ever seen. You had game day there, all of the build up. And then it was essentially like a 90-yard drive by USC, big run down inside the 10, and it just took the air out, never came back really.
Yep, exactly.
Could you have asked for a better start if you were Nebraska from that standpoint too, of how they were able to keep that group involved in that, especially in the first half?
Not really. It was a pretty great start. It was 28-0 at halftime, and I think everybody's looking around and going, yeah, this game's over. And it was. And, I think there was a sense of just, you came there for a party and you actually got one.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since you've had that experience in that stadium. And I think, again, it's one of those things where fans want to come back for repeat business, and I'm sure Nebraska wants to chase that feeling again this Saturday night. Obviously, the opponent isn't going to be as high profile or exciting, but you can chase that feeling. You can definitely chase that feeling, and you're going to have a lot of fans in those stands. And then people are going to come back for the repeat show, and they want to be entertained.
A lot of people watch 6.3 million on NBC, their highest ranked Big Ten game with NBC. Sam McCune of the World Herald joining us. Let's go to yesterday. And Nick and I were talking earlier, and I imagine you probably had the same observation. That guy that was up on the podium talking that runs that football program isn't satisfied to be 2-0, and it's early in the season that you can start going, hey, we got to be better in X, Y, and Z, but I do like X, Y, and Z. What was your read when he talked about his quarterback yesterday? Because he's been very cautious about things he'll say about Dylan. Then there will be times that he goes there. But when he said yesterday, Dylan is at a whole nother level, Sam, and he wants his offense to match. What was your read on that comment?
That when Colorado did something different, Dylan was ready to roll. And I think maybe some of his teammates took a minute to catch up to that. And so I think, Dylan wants to be in a program that capitalizes on that stuff. And I really do think Raiola sort of lives, eats, and breathes football. Like, obviously he's going to class, but sometimes, the family thing can work against that. In this case, I think it works for Nebraska's favor. I think his father has a lot of expectations, which is fair. And his uncle's the offensive line coach. There's really nowhere Dylan can go. Mm-hmm. Like he has to bring his A game every single day, because there isn't just a lot of eyeballs watching, around the state and around the country. There's a lot of eyeballs inside that practice. Former players are there. They're watching Dylan practice. So I think he feels a responsibility, and this is to Dominic's credit, that I think he's instilled this in his son, I think he feels a responsibility to really do it right every single day. And so I think what he brings to the table is just a certain level of want to that I think some of the other players on the offense just have to learn to match. They have it on defense. The level of accountability on defense is pretty significant. I think on the offensive side of the ball, it comes down to leadership, Gary. Like it comes down to who on that offensive side of the ball is Ty Robinson, who on that offensive side of the ball is Isaac Gifford. And they've got Dylan. They need to figure out the running back thing. And then I think they need a wide receiver. I mean, Jamal obviously has stepped forward, but they need they need Fedoni to lead. They need leaders at every single group. And I thought it was interesting that Rule said, and I don't know that he knew what he was saying when he said it, is he basically said Dante Dowdell is a nervous, asthmatic kid who can run hard.
Right.
Like, okay.
Right.
Okay. Like
he doesn't get a cold.
All right. So I think they're obviously trying to channel his energy in the right direction. He's very talented. That's obvious. But they want leaders, and if I think about that running back position and I think about true leadership, they probably haven't had it since Jano, and they really haven't had it since Amir, because Jano only played fullback for really, he carried the ball for 1 year. And it really wasn't since Amir that they've had a guy that could step into a huddle and basically command it. And they need that back. And I don't know if that's Amir, if that's Dowdell, or if Emmett Johnson, or whoever, but they need to have more command from all of their offensive skill players and their linemen.
If as Matt Rule said, the 3 stages or phases of a football team: learning not to lose, winning, and winning at a championship level, and them being now in a mode of, being a winning football team. What do you need to see from Saturday against an FCS opponent that obviously does things differently than what they just saw and has different personnel than what they just saw? If you are to sustain being a winning football team, other than the obvious winning the football game, what does Saturday need to look like, in your opinion?
I think in the passing game, they need to hit big plays. I think against Colorado, those were fewer and farther in between. But against UNI, they need to go over the top, and they need to exert their dominance at the outside positions. UNI doesn't have commensurate corners and safeties who should be able to cover Nebraska's receivers. And so this isn't a game where you're just like, oh, let's just hand it off 47 times and gain 215 yards and throw for 135, and we'll walk out of here with, a 28 to 10 win like they had against Colorado. No, I think what you want is you want to go out and say, we are going to continue to get better at the thing that we know we got to get better at if we're going to win the number of games that we want to win, and that's throwing the ball. Like, Nebraska can run it. That's obvious. They'll figure out the holding penalties. It's obvious that Nebraska can run the football downhill at people. What they've got to get better at is when those defenses pack the box and it's time to throw the football over the top, can Raiola make the throws? I think he generally can. And can those receivers win battles downfield? Against UNI, they need to. On the defensive side of the ball, they need to continue to do what they're doing. And then in special teams, they just have to play better. They have to play better in all phases of special teams.
Speaking of defense, John Bullock was amazing on Saturday night. If you go back and watch the game, he had an unbelievable game. And the linebackers have played pretty well. And I'm thinking in my head, Sam, Christian Jones has been observing the linebackers and Rob Dvorak, and he's seeing things that we don't see. He's going, yeah, I like that coaching is there. They played well, but the defense as a whole, they made Colorado tap out again. So that's 2 straight opponents that they basically strangled. What do you attribute to their quick starts? Because, man, they don't ease into the game. That first series, they are hit sticking. They are making plays. They are getting the ball back for the offense. Anything you see that you attribute to why Nebraska's gotten off to quick starts on defense in the first 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. First of all, the culture on that side of the ball is pretty aggressive and relentless, and so they play with just a high motor, and I think they come out on the field with a certain mentality. And I think they generally have a coordinator who's willing to kind of let them be that way. I don't think he's trying to load them up with too many complex things to start the game. I think that the seasoning of the defensive linemen, Butler, Hutmaker, and Robinson, Those guys all kind of know what they're doing, and they can kind of get after it. And White's scheme allows those defensive linemen to get their blood flowing. So it's not a two gap. Let's go out here and catch people and shuck them and then go get a tackle 2 yards down the field. It's from the very jump. We're going to twist. We're going to stunt. We're going to bring run blitzes. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to move our guys around. And I think that gets their blood flowing. Like, yeah, I know at some point in the first 2 drives, if you're a lineman, I know I'm going to come free for something because that's the way that defense is set up. So I think it's fun that way. And then I just think they have better athletes. I think you have to, tip your cap a little bit to Corey Campbell and their crew. I think they're just playing really fast. They're not the largest defense on the planet, and there will be times this season where John Bullock, people are going to be like, we're just gonna come out here in 2 tight ends, and we're gonna plow. And in the fourth quarter, we're gonna win those battles because Bullock is, the missile won't be coming quite as fast. But against teams like Colorado, look out. I mean, he's just going to be all over the place as he was. And, they're going to face a number of spread teams like that this year. I mean, USC is going to have to contend with what Nebraska does on defense because Nebraska matches up real well with USC. So that'll be an interesting matchup 2 months from now.
If in staying with the defense on this was interesting to me because as watching that game, not with as sharp of an eye as what Matt Rule would, I'm watching, and we knew going into the game as well that what the defensive line did to dictate pressure would really help out the secondary. I thought it was interesting when he said it was the secondary that actually was helping out the defensive front in this one too. And so if you go back to the 2 games that we've now seen with more of a spread attack offensively, how would you assess the secondary that has, you got a different combination of guys playing from corner and safety? What would you say about that overall look so far here in the last 2 weeks?
I think they've played pretty well. I think without having Nebraska hasn't used a ton of pressure. By that, I mean they haven't brought more than 4 very often, and I think they only brought 6 a couple of times in this most recent game. So I think the secondary is covered well. Now, when you've got 7 guys covering, you should cover well. Like that's a natural byproduct of only bringing 4. And I think the 4 against Colorado was really, really tenacious. I mean, I understand what he's saying about the line got home because the secondary was good. Well, the secondary was good because the line got home. And I think those 2 things work in conjunction with one another. And I thought against Colorado, everybody got after it. Everybody played really well. It was almost like everybody was on a string, right? So everybody knew where they were supposed to be. There's certain things about Nebraska guys that was true prior to Tony White getting there, and it's true now. They're pretty you can't get wide on them easily. It's not easy to hit plays short in the flats and have those turn into 70-yard plays. They don't make a lot of mistakes there. They pursue well to the ball. If I'm Colorado or if I'm teams going forward, I'm going to try to keep taking shots deep. That's what I would do. I wouldn't try to attack Nebraska in the flats. I would try to attack them deep middle and on the edges. I'd go over the top and try to hit go routes and things like that. Shadur Sanders' mistake is when he double pumps and Hunter's covered, he's just got to throw that ball somewhere else other than to the flats. Nebraska's really good playing 10 yards in outside the numbers or outside the numbers. They're really good, and they've been good, and they're going to stay good. And so offenses have a hard time. Bo Pelini's defense was kind of different. Like they played really well in the middle of the field, and you could gash them a little bit with those smoke routes. This defense is kind of the opposite. And so I think Nebraska is going to be very, very hard to move the ball on unless you're willing to take the chances and go over the top.
Hey, there were 7 NFL scouts there Saturday night, and there may be 3 first-round guys on the field, depending on the stock of Tommy Hill if it continues to rise. But put your football guy GM hat on. What do you think of Shadur Sanders?
Well, he's got a lot of work to do in terms of operating in offenses that aren't going to be exactly tailored to what he wants to do. But he has a good arm. He made an incredible play on Saturday night where he got out to the right and, got loose, and he threw an incredible pass, across the field, 25 yards or so down the field. So he has an arm. I do think he's relatively tough. I think he's in a tough spot with his dad. Or I think his dad's telling him to go. Like, I don't know. I think it's an odd dynamic. I don't know that they've never necessarily helped each other all the time. And the other thing is, when Shedeur gets to the NFL, he's going to run more than he does now. Now, he can think he's going to be a pocket quarterback all the time, but the reality is Shedeur's mobility is about 78% of Jaden Daniels. Like, it's not, he's pretty good, and he just doesn't run. And I don't know if that's his dad saying, hey, stay in the pocket and, stay healthy or whatever. But if Colorado really wanted to run him, they could, and they'd probably be a better offense as a result. In the NFL, he's going to run more, and he better be prepared for it, because a coach is going to look at this guy and say, hey, we're going to run you 5 times a game. Like, look at Josh Allen. When he was at Wyoming, he never ran, and now in the NFL, he runs all the time. And so, like, same thing's going to happen to Shedeur. Like, he's going to run more in the NFL. I think he's going to be pretty good, but it's going to depend on the style of offense he's in and whether it fits who he is as a quarterback, and whether he, once he gets there, it's not going to be about his dad. His dad won't be coaching in the NFL. So I assume it'll go better than I think sometimes it goes at Colorado. We'll see how this season ends up for him, because I don't know that he and his dad necessarily always balance each other out perfectly, but we'll see what happens.
We were talking about Christian Jones and the amount of recruits that were there. Sam, I was trying to think about this after Saturday, as far as the last time you had this many visitors and things went about as good as they could, as far as the atmosphere, the opponent you're playing, what that opponent brings when it comes to attention, NBC audience, and it all goes your way. I don't know if I can remember when that's happened, but I'm curious on, ultimately, we already saw one big win for Nebraska out of that, and there could be more, as you mentioned. But as far as the last time Nebraska has been able to cash in on that opportunity as a football program with that many visitors and look like that in an atmosphere like that, I don't know when that would have been.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think part of the challenge is that when Nebraska's had those kind of recruits come in, they haven't played well. And when they played well, it was the Bo Pelini era, and I don't know that they had those kind of recruits coming in. I mean, they impressed the guys that were on hand. But I can't remember how, I think the night they beat Miami in 14, maybe it was when they beat Michigan State, but I think it was the night they beat Miami. I think they got Brian Brokop and maybe John Raritan. I think that's what happened. Of course, both those guys transferred, but I think they're going to, so they got Christian Jones. I think, so what you do then is you look at the teams they're up against. The team they're up against for Cortez Mills, who's a receiver from Miami, is Oklahoma. They're going to beat Oklahoma in this one, I think. The team they're up against for Michael Terry, who's a 5-star, is Texas. I don't know that they're going to do that. It's hard to say. Texas is awfully good and better than Nebraska at this moment. In 3 years, we'll see. But Texas right now looks like the second or the first best team in the country. So Michael Terry is going to have to actively decide, I want to leave that to come to Nebraska, and that'll be a hard pull. Some of these 26 guys, I think Nebraska's put their best foot forward, and you just got to play the season out and see what happens, because most of these guys aren't committing right now. They're going to take their process into next winter and next summer. So I think they've made great inroads, certainly, and Christian Jones was a key pickup. They got him in, and Dawson Merritt is the other one. So you got to beat Alabama for Dawson Merritt. And do I think they can beat Alabama? I do. I think Nebraska's recruited him really well, and then Alabama is not Alabama. Now they could go 12-0, and they're Alabama again. But this is the one moment where you might be able to get in. And it's been hard for me to assess why a kid who I think really likes Nebraska went to Alabama anyway. And I don't know if it was a business decision, but I still think Nebraska's going to win that one. I think Michael Terry is going to be hard to win because Texas is Texas and he's from Texas. But I think they're going to win Dawson Merritt eventually. And I think they're going to win Cortez Mills probably pretty quickly. Oklahoma's a unique program, and I don't know that everybody wants to play there. It's a specific kind of place, and I think Nebraska is a more fun place at this moment than Oklahoma.
Yep, I agree. Sam, great conversation. Appreciate it. We'll see you again on Saturday.
Take care.
Sam McCune in the Omaha World Herald. Tony White has made playing defense at Nebraska cool again.
Yeah.
So this was kind of, you never take anything for granted, but expected that Christian Jones was going to say yes to Nebraska. It's an impressive victory. It's kind of a little bit of a comeback because if you had asked me like 6 weeks ago, I didn't think Nebraska was on top, but maybe next to Oklahoma. So it's a big victory for Nebraska. In the state of Nebraska, you don't have players like him that are pass rushers that run a 10-8-9 100. Okay, you just don't have those kind of players that have the pass rushing ability. Those guys usually end up on offense and they're playing a skill position. So that's why I've said from the jump, and I mean, this kid was playing as a freshman at Burke, is that you have to get him in the fold. And so Nebraska did a really good job, but I think a lot of credit, even more credit than what Rule has done, Tony White and Rob Dvorak get a thumbs up for this pickup, and maybe even more so Rob Dvorak. Because what they've done with linebacker play at Nebraska, and he's probably an assistant that is talked about the least, but is one of the top assistants on Nebraska's staff. And I think he's a reason also why Christian Jones said yes.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point about the way that group collectively played in that environment. And going into that game, you brought this up in your oddly specific prediction of John Bullock having an interception. Well, John Bullock may not have had an interception, but he was huge in that game. But Mekhi Bear had a great game as well. The way that those guys have been sound, they've been disciplined. They're active, though, in the same sense where I don't know how many people, if you're a recruit and you're looking at that position, how much you're looking at scheme as opposed to how active you are when it comes to pass rush and all of those things. And I'm talking about interior guys here too. And I mean, you can see Christian Jones on the outside, but looking at the way
play well.
Okay. And looking at the way that those guys all operate in a group, a position group that we looked at saying, okay, when you lose guys like Reimers and Henrich, what would that group collectively look like? And it's pretty amazing to see, especially John Bullock going from where he was when this coaching staff got here to where he was in a big time game where you had athletes on the field that are impressive. And I can't say this enough about that contagious impact of the defense that from a fan standpoint, I'm sure from the offensive standpoint, your own teammates, you're watching that group when they're on there, you just know big things are going to happen with that defense. And that's something that's also a culture within the culture that Matt Rule has provided for this team, but that Tony White has instilled, that this is a defense that can actually do a lot of things for you. If you're an offense that's struggling a little bit, they can create things of their own, and they've got the personnel to do that. But that's the one thing that you watch. And you even saw that early last year. They're extremely well coached at all levels, but especially linebacker. And I think it's a great point about Rob Dvorak, because we talk a lot about Terrence Knight. Terrence Knight's a fun guy to listen to, but you also have those studs on the defensive line. Secondary, with the things between Evan Cooper, then now over to John Butler. It's a group, and there's a lot of familiarity with a lot of those guys that are part of that too, but it's also an outspoken group. You see that linebacking group and Rob Dvorak, who every now and then, he speaks to the media and whatnot, but when he does, he's not giving you a whole bunch of stuff, but what you can tell the guy he's very focused on the attention to detail. And those are things that collectively, as that defensive group, when you listen to Terrence Knight talk, when you listen to Rob Dvorak talk, even the little bit we got from John Butler, but Tony White more than anything, the attention to detail of what those guys do and how comfortable they are within the scheme, that's that development, especially that linebacking position. That is, I think, has been in 2 games has been monstrous for them.
Yeah, they're the poster child for what you're talking about is MJ Sherman.
Yep.
MJ Sherman's had 2 great games, and he's a guy that was like a tweener. Is he a starter? Is he backup? How much is he going to play? Where was he at last year to compare to this year? It's night and day. I mean, he's a dude at the jack spot, and he's had 2 great games. That's a poster child, along with the Prince Will and Bayor and Bullock and what V9 is going to do. Now, I'll be curious if they don't win their appeal, if Bayor has to sit out the first half, how much Thompson plays.
Yeah. And I know Matt Rule mentioned between Vincent Shavers and Stephon Thompson, but that's another guy, though, that was kind of, do I call it the doghouse? Do we call it the doghouse early on? Kind of hold up to the standard. But
I wouldn't say the doghouse. I would just say standards are different compared to Syracuse.
Yeah. And it just.
And also, not everything is given. Ask Dante Dowdell. I think he thought when he rolled in here, he was going to be the starting running back and that it was going to be given to him. And they're like, no. But the guy went out, busted his butt, and now he's breaking people's forearms, and he runs into contact, not away. There's a great cut up from Saturday night where Dowdell could have stepped out of bounds, and he was like, no, there's a guy like 2 yards in front of me. Let's just run him over.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, you learn a little bit different, and they make you earn things. And I think that's what happened with Thompson. But I would like to see him play. I mean, he has played. But everybody wants to see Shavers play.
And Dowdell sounds like a regular Robert Newhouse.
Well, I mean, here he chooses violence.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a thumper. If you say you want to be a physical running team, you got to have backs that are physical. You can't say I want to be a physical running team and then have running backs that are slight.
Yeah.
That like to tiptoe down the sidelines and then step out of bounds. If you say I'm physical, you need a thumper. Not everybody needs to be a thumper, and they essentially have two thumpers. They have Dowdell, who is RB1, and then they have Irvin. And Dowdell chooses violence.
Yeah. And you hit him with the
I
speed
mean, I
guys.
also think that's his game. Watch him. I always say running backs need to get lathered up.
It gets him going.
Dowdell needs to hit somebody when he's running, and then it's like he's into the game, and here we go.
Yeah, I thought that there was a little bit of that, fumbling problems aside, of what I liked early on with Anthony Grant is another guy that when he would run between the tackles, he would take on and welcome contact. And after it's kind of what you're saying right there, you would also notice a little bit with Anthony Grant. Now, Anthony Grant had issues taking care of the football as well. Dante Dowdell had the one, and then of course the reach over the goal line that Matt Rule brought up yesterday too. But that's the one thing that when you do have violent runners, that's what I'm always concerned about a little bit. But I think you're right as far as getting him into a rhythm. And there was that perfect example of the vision too, where you get that lane, and something very similar existed for Ramir Johnson against UTEP, where if you cut back, that lane was wide open and he chose to keep carrying his momentum to his left. First drive, in fact, you watch Dante Dowdell, that gash opens up, attacks it right away. Almost the exact same thing. Probably I don't even know if the play was similar. Very similar blocking scheme. It was on the right side, opens right up. He attacks it, gets 15 yards right there. So I think not only that style of running, but also that vision seems to be a little bit more present than what we've seen in the past.
They get a little warm in here all of a sudden. It's just all this talk about running and running violent. And it's great. Love it. Everyone should copy that template.
You good?
Oh, I am now. So,
what
if you have a power running game, it gives you an attitude.
Yeah.
But you can't just say you want to be a power running game and not do anything. Dowdell's first touchdown, where it was between the tackles. I mean, come on. That's it. Nebraska would always like to be a power running team. They've said that forever.
Yep.
But if you don't back up your actions, then people are like,
they're just words.
You're the boy that cried wolf.
Yeah.
But you also have to have running backs that embrace that. And if they're going to run between the tackles, there's going to be contact there. You're not, you're going to push guys off the line of scrimmage, but maybe 3-4 yards down the field, there is going to be contact. And if guys want that contact, you can continue to do that instead of guys that are always looking to bounce it outside because they don't feel like they can take a hit. Dowdell could be hit by a car walking across the street and be ready to go to practice this afternoon.
The car would be in bad shape.
Wouldn't recommend that.
And the car would all of a sudden be for sale at Weird Wally's. All right, we got to take a break. Lincoln Arneal coming up at 8:30. Huge, I say. Nebraska, Creighton volleyball tonight at the Devaney Center. 7 p.m., Big Ten Network. Both teams are in the top 10. Nice little dance going on between Nebraska and Creighton. Last year went 4. Nora Sis was nowhere to be found. She unfortunately was injured. She's healthy, and so is Creighton. We'll talk to Lincoln coming up at 8:30. BC a little bit later with additional thoughts on Saturday and what's coming up this Saturday on 1620 The Zone. Did you guys see last night during the Jets-Niners game? ESPN cameras caught in the crowd. There were 3 dudes sitting there enjoying some football. There was a Jets fan in the middle and 2 Niners fans on the side.
It's smack dab in the middle, yeah.
Man, that guy was just holding back the tears.
Poor guy.
Guy was in hell.
So what was it, the fourth play of last year's when A-Raj went down with Achilles this year? The fourth play was the Brees Hall fumble.
Mm-hmm.
Something about the fourth play.
Is he out for the year?
Season. No, he's good.
Yeah, we're good.
They were just
once he made it past 5 plays, we're good.
Rodgers looked okay. I mean,
he looks, and it's not just physically looks old though too, but a step slower. Because the one thing I always think about Aaron Rodgers, I do like watching him play. It pains me to say, but that sneaky athleticism as he gets away and he can run, and then he does the little mini pump fake as he's running. He doesn't do the Peyton Manning 2-hand pump fake, but the little mini pump fake, even when he's 5 yards down the field and people still somehow bite. You can definitely tell, and it's to be expected. I mean, the guy's in his 40s. He's coming off an Achilles, but he's definitely a step slower. I mean, that looked evident last night.
He didn't look like Aaron Rodgers long enough last night, and they need more from him.
Yeah.
But for a guy that takes every second of the play clock, swinging lasers.
Yes.
Is what he does.
He does.
But the guy in the Jets uniform was in hell last night, having to sit between the 2 Niners fans. We've all been there before. Mm-hmm. You go to a game. I mean, you might have been like a Colorado fan.
Yeah.
You were sitting in Memorial Stadium and there were 2 Husker fans on the side of you.
So, that was actually one of the great shots in the first half. I think it was when it was after the ball that was almost picked, and then it was deflected. Then Ramir caught it, then goes to the end zone for the 4th touchdown. I think it was right after that. It shows a Colorado fan in the middle of a bunch of Nebraska fans, and he's doing it. It was almost like he didn't realize what was going on. He had the most disappointed look, but he was just kind of clapping.
They were treated.
It was really good.
Another thing that really sucks for the Colorado fan, not only the outcome, and that Nebraska has stripped your vehicle of 3 tires, and you are wobbling on 1 tire. Your football program
I like that.
Is they were expecting violence. Colorado fans were just like ignored.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, meh.
There was one altercation I saw in the bathroom, which is really odd because troughs are supposed to bring you together, but instead
in Memorial Stadium?
Yeah, we had a Nebraska and a Nebraska fan was yelling at a Colorado fan. I was like, odd place for this. We're all supposed to be on the same team here. Same goal. Get done. Get back up to our seat. Watch the game. But other than that, yeah, they were ignored.
Yeah, but people were like, yeah, we're not about you today.
I actually heard more, we miss you guys.
In 92, like, Nebraska fans went after the Colorado fans.
Yeah.
This year was like, whatever. Jimmy, you have an issue with your football program.
Are you saying what I think? I was trying to get caught up on
Kelly
last
Leipold, Lance Leipold's wife,
was
tweeted
she tweeting from the burner?
She tweeted out yesterday, crazy, if we could only be at a place where the fans actually care to pack it. So Illinois packed the place.
Ooh.
They did.
Maybe
10,000 KU fans.
Maybe
there.
Lance Leipold should have knocked off Matt Rule and taken the job.
Ooh.
I think Nebraska's okay with the guy.
Now, she did come out last night and say, I have been informed that there was a post made supposedly from my account. This is not accurate. Let's all focus on helping our Jayhawks get back on the winning track Friday night.
Oh,
sounds legit to me.
Sounds like there's trouble in paradise.
Someone hacked into the account, or she just let the frustration.
Kevin Durant thinks there's nothing wrong here.
Hey.
And did Burt break KU?
That's what people are saying. That's what they are on the Illini message board saying, is that Illinois has broken Kansas like Brad Underwood will break Bill Self in March.
And they got revenge for the whole Bruce Weber fiasco. Only took them 20 years.
Hey, you mentioned, by the way, the bathroom. We forgot to mention this, and thank you to Greg, who tweeted this out to us on Saturday. The condition the urinals were in the South Stadium, that they were essentially overflowing with the urine. Wasn't a good. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I had to show that picture around because it was kind of impressive.
In the South bathrooms?
That's what it said.
Wow.
South Stadium. On their last legs, everything was basically ready to boil over.
They tried to do something about it.
I peed in a solid trough at Kinnick Stadium at Northwest High School Friday night, so I was pretty excited. It was solid.
At that Kinnick Stadium.
Yes.
I really did think for a second here.
Kinnick Stadium.
No, they where Northwest and North play football.
Nebraska's Kinnick Stadium.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It was they still have troughs in there.
That's great. Good.
Yeah.
Buell, I think Buell still has troughs, but of course, because it's in Millard,
Stainless steel.
Yes.
Damn.
I think the stainless steel ones are, I think Seacrest was the first one I noticed that had those, and going to a playoff game there. This was a while back with, it was really cooled out. They had the heaters going in there too.
Nice.
Oh, nothing better than being in a cold game than going into the bathroom. It's heated and you got the stainless steel troughs. I mean,
You don't have to sit.
I'm waiting for a doorman to let me in.
No troughs at the Devaney Center. That's where Nebraska and Creighton will play tonight.
Not at the Coliseum.
Lincoln Arneal will join us in about 25 minutes on 1620 The Zone.
Halftime brought to you by Omaha Whiskey Fest 2024, largest celebration of whiskey in the region, happening on September 28th in downtown Hilton. Also, Big Red Overreaction. Post Purdue will be there as well. And tomorrow, you'll have a chance to win a pair of passes with Whiskey Wednesday. We'll give you another stats that'll make you drink.
All right, welcome back in. We'd be remiss if we did not mention the passing of one of the most recognized voices of all time. We say farewell to the voice because people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come. James Earl Jones, at the age of 93, passed away yesterday. From Field of Dreams to Sandlot to Star Wars to... I think maybe some of the younger generation knows him more for his voiceover work.
Probably.
Like the voice of CNN. But what an unbelievable...
Wasn't he Mufasa too?
Yes. But the younger generation knows him probably the voiceover stuff.
Yeah.
Us a little bit older, that the Field of Dreams, Sandlot, Star Wars...
I want to be left alone.
All of those, we're like, oh, James Earl Jones, who once sang the national anthem at a Major League Baseball playoff game. He once read the alphabet on Sesame Street in that voice. He did David Letterman, like one of the last Letterman shows. They had James Earl Jones on, and he did a top 10 list.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that could go from being a long-haired snake sex cult guy to being a admiral in a Tom Clancy movie.
Yep.
I mean, he could play so many different roles, and he is not as a diehard Star Wars person, but I follow it and I watch it. He made Darth Vader the greatest character in the history of Star Wars.
Yes.
Can I get away with that? And I'm not going to get attacked in the parking lot by the Star Wars
No.
fiend?
No, because it's not a food take.
All right.
Because think of, you just brought up Joker. There's a persona, whether it's the way that they portray the actual role itself or the menacing voice. I mean, how many times in our life, and maybe it was because of Tommy Boy when he's talking to the fan, but Luke, I am your father. I mean, everybody tries to always imitate that. And the Field of Dreams part of it, that the speech at the end, but also his role in that. His voice is iconic. There are two voices that I would love to have narrated my life. His would be one, and then, of course, Morgan Freeman. Two of the most iconic voices that you know immediately who they are.
Rest in peace.
Only when it's time to get down, Gary. I wasn't even trying to
do not ever say that to me again in that voice.
Yeah, come on now.
All right, I was hungry until then.
It got awkward.
Stay over there, Northern Iowa.
Get those partitions back that y'all had in COVID.
Well, he had so many incredible...
You said Tuesdays are bad, so I'm just trying to spice it up.
So many incredible performances.
Yeah.
I would like to, of all the characters that he played, I would love to sit down.
Patriot Games.
Yeah.
No.
That's a good one, though.
I would love if I could sit down with one of the James Earl Jones characters and just talk. Mr. Myrtle.
Oh, yeah.
From Sandlot.
Well, I mean, he played with Murder's Row.
George.
Yeah. Yeah. He called Babe Ruth George. They were buddies.
The guy owned the beast.
He did.
I would love...
He lived a long time.
I would love... I don't really want to hang out with Darth Vader. Okay.
Well, yeah, it'd be a little more sinister.
But I would love to sit on the porch.
I would hang out with Darth Vader
and have a cup of coffee with Mr. Myrtle.
Oh, I don't think anybody would disagree.
League baseball.
Yep.
We can talk about what it's like to own the beast. Because at one point I wanted a Saint Bernard. Because I thought it was cool that they slobbered. Don't judge me. I just thought my neighbor owned a Saint Bernard when I was a little kid, and the thing was gigantic.
Are you still intrigued by that?
Dude, its drinking bowl was a kid's swimming pool.
Oh yeah, and if
I was
you ever
like, this is awesome.
Did you ever look in the drinking bowl after they were done?
Oh,
disgusting.
God, yeah. Well, yeah,
disgusting.
I can't help it.
Because Rocky would get out of the thing and it would be all over him. But it just
sounds like college.
An unbelievable. He lived such a great life, and he had played so many characters. And then towards the end of his acting career, he would do cameos. Yeah. I mean, he was on Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, he was.
Do
on
you know
Big Bang
that
Theory.
he ding dong ditched Carrie Fisher? on Big Bang Theory.
Oh, I didn't see the episode. No, I knew he was on it though.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Do kids still do that? I know they throw eggs and they break your pumpkins and they light fireworks off in your neighborhood in the middle of August.
I don't know if they do the ding dong ditch. I don't know if they have.
Because everybody has a damn Ring camera now.
Oh yeah, you know what? That's a good point.
That's true.
That's a great point.
That's true. You know what? You know what? I actually think
flaming
that
bags
preparing for my football career in high school, I think I got faster because I was really good at that game.
Well, if you remember in the movie Benchwarmers, Reggie Jackson has them work on footwork by doing the ding dong dash or the ding dong ditch.
The Reggie Jackson.
I think everybody who grew up in
Queen?
different areas probably call it all like different things.
Ours was the ding dong ditch.
Yeah, I want to say ours was the ding dong dash.
I bet you. I bet you also do cookies instead of donuts.
I've heard both.
We couldn't.
No,
I have.
No.
We used to do both.
Stop. For anybody that thinks, hey,
I like cookies.
When you're in your car, you're going to do donuts. Okay, here it's an
I like cookies.
Nebraska thing.
I
People
like cookies.
Hey, we're out doing cookies. It's donuts. I was spinning donuts. It's not spinning cookies.
I've never heard spinning cookies.
Okay, that's a Nebraska
cookies
thing.
is a Nebraska
You
thing.
go ahead and put your cinnamon rolls in your chili, you Nebraskans.
Just douse it.
I'm still going to do my donuts, and I'm going to have my cinnamon roll outside of my chili.
We did donuts outside the Vista parking lot in Manhattan once.
I get it. I mean, they're both circular. It is kind of ridiculous, though, a cookie. Like a donut, you could actually make a donut with...
Rise up, Nebraskans. Why don't you stand up for that?
I mean, what cookie has a hole in the middle? It doesn't exist.
Probably a crumble.
I'm going to spin a cookie. Oh, gosh.
They were doing cookie.
I wonder if that's going to be in the Ford Escort. Ooh.
Those little hooligans were doing cookies in the parking lot again.
Jimmy, do bring a good point. That with the Ring doorbell cams,
doorbell dash,
you cannot do this anymore.
When
it happens, it's usually bad.
Can I throw out another James Earl Jones character that'd be fun to sit down with because he's a man of authority? King Jaffe Joffer. And
yeah.
His soil is royal oats.
We could get an elephant in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I tried to get a buffalo for last
Fine,
week.
it is settled then. He was just he was always just very to the point, very matter of fact. Didn't spare any feelings. He would tell you exactly
best of the
how
best.
It was.
No.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, best of the best.
Oh, you go on and on.
He was a great coach. Great coach. He really challenged those guys.
Mm-hmm.
The New York Times obit is unbelievable. But there's one clip I just saw. I referenced it, but James Earl Jones was on Sesame Street just reading the alphabet. A.
If you could do that
in that voice,
yeah.
An incredible career. And I hope the younger generation that know him as a voice will go and watch some of his other movies because he delivered. Man, his resume, if you go and look at his IMDb page, I mean, the variety of roles is incredible.
Yeah.
Terrence Mann for me, by the way, I forgot.
That's what I want. Well, yeah, Terrence Mann again,
because he did offer him a cup of coffee.
Very similar to the King Jaffe Joffer, where he was, he wasn't messing around, but then had that soft spot for baseball when Kevin Costner continued to be persistent, or Ray.
Kevin Costner and Mark Hamill had really heartbreaking tributes to James Earl Jones on social media yesterday. Like Mark Hamill said, he lost his dad. I mean, you don't think that people that are already emotional and then see that and you're a Star Wars fan,
right?
Yeah,
you're bringing
Mark Hamill's pretty interesting on Twitter. Mark Hamill must it shows up on my For You page. Mark Hamill must not start tweeting until late at night. He lives in Los Angeles because his tweets don't start showing up until
you wake up in the morning,
like 12:30, 1 o'clock our time.
In
the morning. And it's just it's bam, 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 bam.
Well, he's evaluating the day. I totally understand that. This kind of relates because it is his voice that says this. So the first time we ever went to Dyersville and went to Field of Dreams, I got the keychain that has the speech of "They will most definitely come." I thought I'd lost that because who uses keychains anymore? I thought I'd lost that. I found it in a box when my parents had moved out of their house. And so I've held on to that because we haven't watched it yet, but I'm looking forward at some point to watch Field of Dreams with Reese, and then he'll have.
But you and your wife have watched it, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That was probably like a prerequisite to getting married.
Yeah, absolutely.
If your wife doesn't like Field of Dreams, then
you're
moving on.
And she likes baseball too, so that's the good thing. But that little keychain that I always thought would be so insignificant, it's such a cool thing. And if you see the movie, especially for a kid, I'm curious if Reese will actually really like.
Oh, I think you will
like that.
I mean,
it'll be like a coin.
You guys are good sports parents.
So he'll be mad at Timothy Busfield, then show him Little Big League.
Yeah, then I'll show him as Luke Hollins, and he'll be like, "Whoa, I had no idea."
Into the Equitable Bank inbox, Ring and Run.
Oh, I've never heard that.
So this is
a lot easier to say.
So this is people that live in District 66. This is what they did. They ring and run, and cookies were for cars, donuts for pickups.
Yeah, I never heard that. Maybe that's okay. This is a lot of what I knew when it came to cookies / donuts was my 3 older brothers, mainly my 2 oldest brothers, because they would do stuff like that. And they always referred to it as cookies. And they did have a car. It wasn't a truck. So maybe that was the deal. Cookies are, it's dumb, but yeah, that's what we always used.
Donuts. Always be a donut.
It's a good diabetic segment here.
Some donuts.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because it makes a donut shape, not a cookie. There's no hole in the middle of a cookie. It doesn't make sense.
Poll question regarding donuts or cookies. Are Iowans smarter?
Not according to the license plate.
You guys were spinning cookies. We're spinning donuts.
I think no, donuts wasn't lost to me, though. There are people that would refer to it as donuts. So I don't want to make it sound like everybody in Nebraska were saying cookies.
I bet those are people that run businesses. I bet the head of F&BO and Charles Schwab
probably
were donut people.
But they were probably also cruising Dodge back in the day and going to Sprite Night, Penny Park.
Those were when times were simpler in Omaha.
Spinning donuts in the Penny Park parking lot.
Now we're just known as Swim Town. Huge volleyball match coming up tonight.
Did you notice yesterday driving in that we were Skunktown for a little bit? I was gonna bring that up when we came in yesterday.
I saw a raccoon this morning.
I noticed it was a bit skunky, so we came back to Skunktown for a little bit, at least over by the campus. Yeah, we might have a skunk issue.
Maybe they're just trying to get an education.
We got a toad issue in Bennington. Toads are running amok.
Really?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Are you catching them?
We're now at the point where we have to catch one. One is a culprit because it freaks our dog out. It was foaming at the mouth one time because it got to it. It hasn't tried to eat it. It was in a stare down with it the other day, but it has our dog Macy. Like, she just completely foams like crazy. And she's 70 pounds staring over that thing. So she doesn't actually try to kill it, but it torments her. So now it messes up her whole outside routine. So I actually now have to physically catch it and remove it. I'm gonna have to take it to a creek or something.
You got frog -3.5 then, it sounds like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The frog is, but it's like really fat. So now it's at the point where it just doesn't really give a damn.
So it's a bruiser. Doesn't try to avoid the contact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but everybody's been talking about it. Yeah, they've been seeing toads have been jumping into their garage when they open the garage door and stuff. I mean, it's a Bennington thing. We deal with toads, man.
Man, what a rough year it's been up there.
I know. Between the storms and now the toads, maybe the toads came, maybe it was raining toads at one point we didn't realize during the storm, and now we're just dealing with the aftermath of it. People are getting their roofs done, and we're dealing with toads.
Got people that live in Bennington but don't want to go to Bennington because it's packed, so they go to Westview. I get it. It's issues.
That's true.
Rough times out there in
Bennington. That second high school pass, man.
Lincoln Arneal joins us next. Monster night in college volleyball. And guess where the epicenter is? It's right in the state of Nebraska, where you have a top 10 matchup. You have two teams in Division II that are in the top 10 in Wayne State and UNK. Now you have number 5 Nebraska, number 9 Creighton. They meet for the first time in a top 10 matchup. Once again, Nebraska's won 20 in a row. Creighton is loaded. Might be the best team. Well, it's their best team ever, I will say, as we hit September 10th. Nebraska's still finding their way, so it's a good opportunity to catch up with a good friend, Lincoln Arneal, who covers volleyball, not just Nebraska volleyball, I should add, but volleyball in general, one of the best guys nationally for Huskers Illustrated. He joins us now. Good morning, Lincoln.
Good morning. How's it going?
Good. Hey, before we dive into tonight, do you want to sum up, because volleyball has had some great national stages where they've been standalone on ESPN, standalone on Fox, and the top 10 has been pretty fluid. How would you sum up the first couple of weeks of college volleyball this year?
Pure chaos. That's a good thing, too. Like you mentioned, it's a product of, yes, there's been some upsets, but it's a product of the top teams not being afraid to take a loss early in the season and playing each other. You have Wisconsin versus Texas. You have Minnesota and Stanford playing. Louisville and Kentucky are playing top teams. Nebraska's playing other top teams. I think, it's great for the sport because these teams want to get these early tests and see what they're made of and kind of earn that. They're not afraid of taking a loss that will hurt their postseason chances or chances to host. So I think it's ultimately good for the sport, but it's been fun to watch, and kind of you never know what's going to happen on any given night.
And also, before we get into tonight's matchup, and I had mentioned this to you yesterday, but awesome job, first of all, on the E60. I was really happy that you were a part of that. But in that project, too, I know this is maybe geek out is the wrong way to say it because you're just so passionate about the sport. But how cool is that for you to be a part of that project and to be able to tell a little bit about that story for Nebraska volleyball?
Yeah, it's a fun time whenever you get a chance. Like they want to talk to you for your expertise. Like, I have expertise on this, but yeah, I just enjoy following the sport and realize how much I do retain and kind of the perspective they were going to. I didn't realize I was going to be the only media member they talked to, but I was glad to help fill that role and be a narrator or provide some perspective. So yeah, it was really cool. My phone was blowing up that night. Like, hey, I saw you. Everyone's doing the Leonardo DiCaprio. Hey, I know that guy. It's kind of fun. So. Not famous people on TV.
So let's jump into tonight. And this is a really, really good Creighton team that has gotten off to a good start, and they have hit the ground running. Nebraska a week ago got a wake-up call. I think they're still trying to find their way. But before we dive into the nuts and bolts, and I'm glad that they both play every year, and because of the quirkiness of the COVID, that's why we're back in Lincoln again this year. Do you think Nebraska looks forward to playing Creighton? I know some of the Nebraska products they like, and there's friends on both sides. They look forward to this. But what about John Cook and Nebraska as a whole? Do they look forward to playing Creighton?
I think so. I think it's because Creighton has become another elite program and another one of those tough tests we were talking about too. Whereas there might be some kind of, I think it's maybe start out as doing a favor to the in-state program of, we'll kind of come up there and play at your place, and the gym may be mostly full of Nebraska fans, but that's really turned over the years too, where Creighton built up their program and really become one of the best programs in the nation. So I think Nebraska enjoys it too, because it is some backyard rivalry. You have the Lindsey Cressy-Norris friendship across the net too, and there's a lot of familiarity. But I think, it is really built on respect. Try to find someone who dislikes Kirsten Bernthal Booth, and that may be the first person that you find. So, everyone, John Cook really respects her, and I think there's a lot of fun to it. There's probably more animosity in the stands than there is on the court and between the players.
Lincoln, Gary brought up Norris not being a part of that matchup last year. And if you look at the way that this Nebraska team really going into it, the one thing that's been pretty decent, we can look at the SMU game as hopefully a one-off, but defensively, they have been solid, especially with the blocks. But Norris in this matchup against what Nebraska will try to do defensively, how does that play out in your opinion?
I think both. I mean, Norris Sis and Ava Martin are just very creative. I mean, yes, they can bring the thunder and they can really hit powerful shots when they need to, but it's what they do when they aren't maybe hitting full strength. They can tool the ball off the block to get points, or they can find goal line or just find a different angle to hit it at. So I think it's a creativity that really separates them and makes them elite players. So I think Nebraska is going to have some challenges on defense to keep them in check a little bit too, but I think we've seen Nebraska do well. They've faced some really good outside hitters, and Brooklyn DeLay from Kentucky this year, and then Melanie Parra from TCU. So they've seen some elite attackers, and they'll get their kills too. But I think if Nebraska can control them a little bit, I mean, they're going to get double-digit kills tonight, regardless of how long it goes. And then if they can control the other weapons, I think that's where Nebraska would like to make an impact with their defense.
Creighton's pin hitters are red hot right now. Lincoln Arneal joining us. You know what it's like covering this program, and the expectations are through the roof. So when Nebraska stubs their toe, and especially against SMU, it's like, oh my God, what's wrong? But John Cook will figure it out because he always does. But as you watch this season unfold, and Nebraska's played 6 matches and they've won 5 of them, and they've been on a roll where they've swept teams that maybe they should. But,
yes.
But are they still trying to figure it out? Does it still seem like we're really, really good, but we haven't gone to that next level yet?
Yes, it does. I think it was surprising because they came out against Kentucky on that first match of the year. They looked fairly good. I mean, they looked like they were not in midseason form, but they looked like a team who was returning most of their parts. But I think what you saw the next couple of weeks too is, I don't know, just the gears grinded up a little bit. The most surprising part is just the connection between Bergen Riley and Merritt Beeson. Here you have 2 All-Americans that Merritt Beeson was arguably the best player on the court at times for Nebraska, and they haven't looked in sync. The sets have been off. Merritt Beeson's been making some decisions. I was like, was that the shot you should have hit there? I don't know. But so that's been the one surprising part. It does seem like a work in progress. Even like they lost to SMU, and they struggled a bit against TCU the Saturday before that. So, and it does seem like the parts, and especially on the pins. I think the one part where Nebraska's really excelled is their middle blockers. That really looks like it's taken a step forward. But the pin hitters have been stop and go and kind of erratic at times.
Well, and to what Gary's asking too, how much of this is being able to, and especially in matchups like this, being able to find just the right combination that works against elite competition? Because we know what Nebraska's non-conference looks like before they get into conference play. And so that obviously is a major challenge that sets them up for what is a major challenge in conference. But when you do have so many different pieces that you can use, I mean, is it that simple of just finding that combination, finding that recipe that's going to work as far as personnel?
And you do have Taylor Lanford, and that's been mostly coming off the bench. Layla Blackwell, both new additions. So there's been some tinkering, but I think Nebraska's rolled with the lineup that they had last year for the most part, with Lindsey Krause uninjured, of course, this year. So it's been surprising that they've struggled as much, and they've talked a lot about just working on it and having communication. I think that's where a lot of it, maybe they're just taking each other for granted a little bit and aren't talking as much, aren't calling out the shots that they want from the setter. And so that's just kind of relates in some discombobulation a little bit with the offense. So, I mean, I ultimately am not worried about Nebraska. I think that's just the growing pains every team goes through at the beginning of the year. And like you said, figuring out which pieces are there, developing that chemistry. And that's what John Cook likes to figure out and tinker with during the non-conference season, is working on that with the eye towards peaking in November and December.
When you have a Lindsey Krause who's 6'4", Harper Murray's a 6'2", and what they're going to go up against tonight when they're set, and again, both teams are setting their outside hitter 52% of the time. How much of that is an advantage when you look at who's going to be in front of them for Creighton, when you have Lindsey Krause at 6'4" and Harper Murray at 6'2"?
I think, their height and reach gives them a lot of options as far as what they can do. But I mean, those two are also 2 powerful hitters. I mean, you can tell when they want to smack the ball a little bit, they unleash it. The ball, it sounds, the sound rings out in the gym. So, but they have a lot of options too. I mean, they don't face that many big blocks, And I think what they need to do is realize how to use a shorter block and hit high hands or hit around the block and kind of figure out how to use the defense against them as across the net and use their height to their advantage.
Lincoln, you kind of going back to something you said about this is what John Cook likes to do, especially the non-conference. And I think he's more than built up that trust amongst the fan base that he will. When the SMU game happened, I brought up that the last time that it had happened was 2017. And we remember that MTE here in Omaha when they lost to Northern Iowa. And that season turned out to be a pretty damn good one for Nebraska. They go on to win a national championship. I don't want to say, hey, let's make that comparison, but to use that moment of that example of what was an embarrassing loss to the standard of what Nebraska volleyball is, what is it about John Cook and the program that he has where he is able to use that, get them better? What are the maybe the leadership skills or the traits that he has as a coach to identify, to get those things fixed? Because as we've seen in the Big Ten, there's zero opportunity to let your guard down. How does he do that?
Yeah, I'm sure that I don't know if he, anytime they lose, I don't know if he enjoys it, but it's like, maybe he's been harping. He harped on some what he called dumb shots that they were taking even before that loss at SMU too. And I think when Nebraska loses, that just gets everyone's attention and snaps them out of the funk or just kind of the malaise that they may be in. That you can't just walk through these matches and win matches because you're Nebraska. So I think he does a good job of using that and kind of remember last time we got a little let our foot off the gas a little bit. We lost to a team. So I think he can use that approach, and he really gets their attention too. And I think that also goes to the leadership on the team between Merritt Beeson and Alexi Rodriguez of what they can do, and really kind of rally the rest of the team to recognize the opportunity they have. And I think that's one thing we haven't seen yet. I mean, you mentioned it earlier that they should have beat the Citadel and they should have beat Montana State with their B team or even their C team. So I think that this will be the first test of whether they're learning those lessons from the SMU loss and if they're taking that to heart, taking that opportunity to really recognize what went wrong in that match and what they could do to rectify that.
Lincoln Arneal joining us. We'll get you out on this. And by the way, great podcast with Lincoln and Jeff Sheldon, who we know very well as well, Volleyball State. And then also Lincoln's got a Substack, and I want you to give that address where people can get subscribed to that. One final question. After all of this and the lead up, and this is going to be great tonight, the atmosphere at the Devaney Center for a Tuesday night will be unlike any other place on a Tuesday night for college volleyball. What happens between Creighton and Nebraska? Does Nebraska make it 21 in a row, or does Creighton remind everybody that they don't need to be playing in a Power 4 league, that they're the real deal?
I think we're going to see a 5-set match. It's going to be back and forth. I ultimately think, I know Creighton, I think, has a momentum. I would not be surprised if they win this, but I think because it's at Devaney, because Nebraska has a lot of experience and they've played this Creighton team before, that they pull out a tight one in the 5th set and continue that streak. And I know you're using the Creighton stats because Nebraska says this is 22-0. There's a couple matches in 1980 that they count, so it's all good. It's all
controversy.
Good. They don't agree on when the program started, so it's but it is a 0. Creighton is still looking for that first win, so it's exciting. Hopefully, it will be a good match, and I just want to see some great volleyball on the court. Hey,
Lincoln, we're big fans. You not only cover Nebraska volleyball, but the sport is general, and you got a great Substack that I'm a subscriber to. Where can people get signed up?
It is Volleyball State at Substack.com. So you can just go there or try. I think usually every Friday or Saturday morning when I send it out, so you can find my Twitter feed, Lincoln_VB. I will send it out that way. And I try to recap what's going on across the country and things that catch my eye and hopefully of interest to everyone else.
Hey, fantastic. Thank you, Lincoln. Enjoy tonight.
You bet. Thanks for having me on, guys. Have a good one.
It's going to be a great atmosphere. It's going to be Tuesday night. In Lincoln, Nebraska. Creighton and Nebraska volleyball are playing. The place will be packed. They'll be scratching their backs on the bricks of the Devaney Center.
That feels good, too.
Yes, sir. Call me.
Should we just call him before the show's over?
Hey, I should. I can't.
You just call him right now?
I really want to play like the last match.
The last voice.
Yes, sir. JB. Call me. Gonna be in Omaha.
Does he ever call you with just a thought that he has. I feel like
I
feel like if he had a thought
the
that
phone,
okay,
so it's a text.
Okay,
that's why we get him on during one of the segments. But the rule is we can't talk about the match tonight. It has to be literally anything else.
Yeah, it's just a conversation amongst you, you two fine
But
gentlemen.
it's a Tuesday night, and the place is going to have 8,000 plus. It'll be great showcase for two really, 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 really good programs and the in-state products that are going to be on the floor. I said this yesterday. Just watching the beginning of the year, I would go with Creighton tonight. Nebraska's really good, but they haven't been Nebraska yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
And maybe it could happen tonight, but I just think before first serve tonight, I think Creighton is the team.
It's interesting on how each team with a victory tonight, how that can impact their season and their program. Because I think you just said it right there for Nebraska. If you're able to win this one tonight, it cures a lot of the ills. You maybe feel like, okay, we're finally starting to put that together of what this thing is supposed to be like. And for Creighton, there's a little bit of the baseball feel to Creighton, Nebraska, because you asked the question of, does this one register with Nebraska? And I always feel like we're asking that question with baseball. It always seems to bring out way more emotion in Creighton on the diamond than it does from Nebraska. Yeah. Nebraska plays it down. Creighton baseball, they don't. They lean into it. They talk about it. They get into it. And still under the surface for Nebraska players, it does mean a lot. They just don't let on to it. I think there's a very similar, there's a parallel there with volleyball as well, where I don't know if they lean into it as much, but this is going to be maybe one of the more outside observer indications of this game tonight of if Creighton were to win, this would be all the things that KBB has accomplished, and there's a lot, and they've got a good program. You get this one, what this could do for them as well, because this would be the biggest win.
Yeah, and
I don't think there's really no debating that, right?
I mean, the great sport that everybody will play everybody. Like, look at Creighton's schedule the next 4. And then this is a week where Nebraska will be on Big ESPN on Sunday against Louisville. All right, when we come back, we got Brian Christopherson around the corner. We had a golden shower moment at Memorial Stadium on Saturday night. I will tell you what happened.
This had nothing to do with that picture I showed earlier.
Hell of a tease.
Nope.
Or the piss bombs.
It's mornings. Well, we did.
Oh!
Colorado participated.
Of course they did.
Not the team.
Yeah.
Tell you more.
Oh, God.
Coming up on 1620 The Zone. The line for Nebraska, Northern Iowa. Nebraska opens as a 30.5-point favorite.
Oh, for the Handley Bowl.
I like it.
Northern Iowa greater than Bethune-Cookman. But that was nearly a 50-point spread back in the day.
They didn't cover, did they? If I remember correctly.
No, they did not. But it was still.
It might have been one of the games I just paid no attention to.
Yeah, it was just kind of. Especially where it was placed you had to take up a bye week because of that. Because Nebraska essentially got the bye week and
Vallis was mad. Love that.
It was like the SEC playing that game, in November. It was like, man.
Cupcake weekend.
I'm good.
The poll, by the way, thanks to everyone participating, 83 to 17% in favor of donuts.
It makes more sense. I'm just saying it's what we said.
This is from Kendall. He said, I live in Iowa. Never heard of anyone calling it a cookie. Yeah. This is for one time we can celebrate
Iowans
over Nebraskans. Okay, so we had a golden shower moment. A Creighton or
story time.
Excuse me.
The other CU.
Comments just melted down.
Colorado. A Colorado fan did a dirty on our stadium. Now, I noticed that Colorado fans, because, dude, we stole 3 tires off your vehicle. All right, you had 1 tire to get back to Boulder.
Took their soul.
Okay. We could have gone National Lampoon's Vacation on you, but
roll them up.
But I think here's what happened. Here's what happened on Saturday night with the Colorado fan. Because we had a lot of Colorado fans chirping at us, and I love it. You know what? We're all petty. It's all about rivalry. It's all about trash talking. That's what makes college sports so great. Is the Colorado fans stopped coming at Nebraska fans the day after the 28-10 game. Now they're more concerned about the program. So now they're having Colorado on Colorado crime.
Yeah. Which is always fun.
Because the realists out there are like, we're in trouble. The other ones are like, no, but we got Dion. And I'm like, you got some issues.
Yep.
But
you're not a serious program.
This is from Kent, longtime listener of 1620 The Zone. Kent works security at the stadium.
I can't.
We were commenting that Colorado fans, for the most part, were really quiet. Nebraska fans left them alone. There were quite a few Colorado fans on the street, but in the stadium, there were not many.
Yeah.
But those that were there, they were wearing a Travis Hunter jersey. Travis Hunter jerseys more popular than Shadur Sanders jerseys. Just an observation. But Kent says had to call a Colorado fan in for urinating on the stadium.
Oh boy! Did he realize that he wasn't in the bathroom? I mean, he might have had that kind of day.
My response was, did he pee on someone?
And
he said no.
Okay.
The guy walked out of gate 10, went around the corner, and he went right next to Will Call and relieved himself on the stadium.
Oh, my gosh.
Do you think that is life in prison in Nebraska if you pee on the stadium?
It's close. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have to face some peers on that one. And that is close. You may get parole after 30 years, but you're going to do some time. That is a sacred spot.
I try not to pee on
My
stadiums.
gosh, by the way,
field.
that's not a very secluded area either.
Well, there's a little corner.
Yeah,
there.
there's that corner, but you're still, I mean, did he specify around what time? Was this?
No, but I'm just going to go out on a limb here, not knowing this Colorado fan, that he may have had a hockey pop or two.
Well, yeah, I would hope so.
It's like any normal person.
Either that or he's got a medical condition. He's got uromycetitis.
Whoa.
Excuse me?
If everybody remembers the parking lot Seinfeld episode.
Oh.
You remember uromycetitis.
I thought you said Mike Tyson.
Because I have uromycetitis and I could die. Maybe he's got that. I would hope if he's doing that, then he had a few pups.
Maybe that was Kent's toughest thing.
I mean, I had a few Saturday, but I used the bathroom. Shout out Boiler Brewing, by the way.
I know what I saw. Yeah, that's bold, is what that is. It's very bold to urinate on the old grandma on 10th and Vine. I'm almost glad that security saw him and not fans, because fans might have had a little street justice there.
Would you have let him zip up before you attacked him?
Oh, would you zip up on him? Would you have a?
I think now we're talking about two.
Would you have
things.
a something about Mary situation? How the Frank get above the beans? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
We'll finish this hour on this. This is from Jake into the Equitable Bank inbox, where they take banking personally. I rewatched the Nebraska-Colorado game. The NBC ref analyst said the refs missed 9 total calls, 7 of which benefited Colorado. That's from Jake the Trucker.
Thanks, Jake.
Hi, Jake.
Took about 100-plus yards of rushing off the board.
It did.
The Barney play, which ding, 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 subtly yesterday, if you are drafting college football fantasy, I would highly advise that you put Ja'Cory Barney on your fantasy team for this Saturday.
Yeah, he's going to get the ball.
He will be getting the ball a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I would remove Jamal Banks. What happened to Jamal Banks? Where'd Jamal Banks go? Jamal Banks hasn't had a good start to this season, or at least the start that we expected.
Mm-hmm.
But Ja'Cory Barney, put him on your fantasy team for this weekend. I think when you put it out there on a Monday, you back it up on a Saturday with stuff that's going to be used for him. And why not? I think he graded as the highest freshman.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get him in space, he almost housed one by simply just running by defenders.
Yes.
Before they had a chance to get in position to tackle him, he was gone. But the big Barney play in the second half that was erased by the penalty was called on Ramir was part of that 100-plus yardage that was taken off the board due to the penalties. That second half, now I've gone back and watched the whole game. That second half just killed the vibe in that stadium. Just completely sucked the air out of what was going to be a huge party. Mm-hmm. Now, you put a 50 burger on it.
Oh, God, yeah.
But the way that second half went where there was no flow, it just, can we just get the game over so we can stroll out on the field and hang out with the Raiolas?
Yeah, and it was
in our overalls.
Even defensively, gave up a little bit more yards there. There was kind of more of a bend and not break as opposed to just dominant all over the place like it was in the first half too. So it just wasn't the best look, but the optics again with the flags too started with that. And I know a lot of people, and even Matt Rule talked about it again, of the amount of penalties that went against that weren't called in favor of Nebraska too. But make no mistake, that was just a bad officiating crew. That wasn't they got the fix is in, trying to keep it up for Colorado. No, that was just it was just a bad officiating.
It's a league where you twist someone's helmet around, they just look the other way.
Big 12 officials.
Mm-hmm. I'd be curious to see how soon they respond to the appeal by Nebraska on the Bayor targeting. Don't just think, well, those never get overturned. There were a handful last year that did get overturned. But I also would love for somebody to go more in depth on how many cut-ups they sent into either the Big 12 office or the Big 10 office. Don't have conference officials. Have them as a consortium. Then we don't have to worry about this.
And you know what else I want? I want Terry McCauley to weigh in on all of them.
Yeah. I don't even know what they're doing.
He was having a
Cole, I don't even know what you're doing. I don't know what the officials are doing. Paul, you're just there.
It got really
no time left on the
Terry
clock.
McCauley.
I don't want to be here, and so I'm just going to ruin your broadcast.
Exactly.
Brian Christopherson will join us next.
I really thought you were going to say it, but no.
Say
that BC was going to ruin our broadcasting. He's going to enhance our broadcast.
Oh, yeah. No, BC, he brings it.
Mm-hmm. Change his picture,
Don't matter what he's feeling. He brings it every day.
He'll stop by next. All right, let's welcome in our good friend from Husker 24/7, Brian Christopherson. Good Tuesday morning, BC.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. Victory Monday for you. Vikings play the Giants, and they win a football game.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos, off to the 1-0 start. Good luck this weekend against the Rams. It'll be without their starting wide receiver.
And Sam Darnold was the, best rated quarterback in week 1, too? How about that?
Well, we got work to go until we hold that MVP trophy in the air, but it's a start.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Darnold greater than Keenum.
Hey,
Sam Darnold could have a moment like Case Keenum, though, in the miracle, then you'd take that.
I think Kevin O'Connell's kind of an offensive genius, so maybe this is the year that gets proven to some people, but we'll see.
I know some Viking fans that would disagree with you this time last year, but that's cool.
You got a really good football coach. I'm a Kevin O'Connell fan. Let's talk recruiting before we go nuts and bolts about the current football team in Lincoln. Christian Jones commits last night. There's a lot of momentum for further recruits in 25. Isaac Jensen, who is a tight end at Millard South, Jace Reynolds, who is a linebacker at Elkhorn North, are in the class of 26. They are trending towards saying yes to Nebraska. 6 in-state in this current class. The Omaha wall has been built. Stanford and Florida State have snuck in and grabbed a player, but they get Christian Jones, who you've seen him on film. I think you've seen him in person. He's a pass rusher that you might find because of his speed and his ability to cover tight ends, etc. He's a guy that you might find in Atlanta or in Dallas, but he's in Omaha, Nebraska, playing for Westside. All of that said, how big of a win was this for Nebraska to get Christian Jones to commit at this time?
Huge, because I don't think I'm talking out of turn to say, I don't think this was like one of those in-state recruitments where it's just like once Nebraska offers, everybody's like, okay, of course, yes, that's going to be how it ends up. They really had to, I think, work at it on the recruiting trail. And, nights like Saturday night certainly help. I mean, how could you not be a prospect on the sideline for that game, not only with like the atmosphere and the intensity right now around the program to win and get to that next level, but just watching that defense be vultures, and just like how dominant it was, and you would leave that wanting to be a part of it. So I know there was some consideration at some point of maybe going to Oklahoma this week, but when he pulls the trigger, and I think it's just a huge addition to a great 48 hours for Husker football. And he's got all the tools in the kit. And if I'm a guy who has those tools, I'm looking at where are programs where people are getting developed pretty well. And right now, that's a good trend for Nebraska football, most fans would say, watching this program. And he's seeing it up close. So they're developing guys. So you look at that, you say, I have the stuff. I think they have the stuff that can help me really raise my game to another level.
And the DC and the position coach are always going to be first and foremost the most important people when it comes to the recruiting process to any of these positions, especially on the defensive side. I'm always curious, Brian, and maybe this has zero impact, but we'll use Christian Jones as an example. Obviously, Rob Dvorak and what we've seen at that position has evolved. Tony White goes without saying, he is fantastic. But how much does what Terrence Knight does up front with that group, and I know it's a smaller sample size because John Butler just got here, but what John Butler can eventually do, how does that impact the other positions on what the guys in front and behind them are doing from the position coach standpoint?
Oh, it's huge when you know that the other groups checking all their boxes. It's just going to open up doors for you. And that's how they feel on that side of the ball right now. They don't feel like there's a weak link over here that I have to cover this patch of grass for. And, that's a big deal to guys on the team now. And it's a big deal to recruits who see the game and see like, yeah, I like my position coach, but that coach over there, I see what he's doing with that group, and they put it all together. So yeah, it all matters. And that's a very cohesive defensive staff. It's going to be one of the top defenses in the country this year. It just is. I don't see that group falling off a cliff. They're just too well put together. And so anybody who is looking at Nebraska on the defensive side of the ball, and they're looking through all the windows of this and that, and okay, what's that like? for the most part, they're probably going to get pretty good answers that make Nebraska one of their more appealing choices. And obviously, if you're Christian Jones, you have it right in front of your face. And instead of like some past classes where guys locally have heard on a Tuesday, we're talking about a bad loss or this or that was really rough. And it sort of builds up this negativity. Right now, it's the other way. And so, guys locally are hearing the good stuff, and it's not like it was a few years ago.
Let's talk some offense, because this is an offense that has scored 58 of their 68 points this year in the first half. They've outscored the opposition 58-7 in the first 30 minutes, which is wild. But in terms of the passing game, and for outsiders that haven't watched the first two games but know Nebraska is 2-0 and they know Dylan Raiola is throwing at about a 74% clip. And oh, by the way, they have this wide receiver that's caught 10 passes through the first two games. With all that said, why does the passing game seem off through the first 2 weeks?
I just feel like, if you listen to Rule yesterday, he feels like Raiola's been pretty on. It's just a matter of, maybe some of those receivers are going to have to keep working at it, get into the spots they're supposed to. Some things maybe a little off on that end. This is where you count on veterans like Nayor and Banks who have been around the block to, see what the weaknesses are and be able to repair them in pretty swift fashion. They do need to get Fedoni unlocked, in the passing game. I think you don't have to just force feed it like, east-west stuff, but I think there's ways you can get him vertical, especially this Saturday, and kind of get some positive momentum going there. He did do really well though in the blocking part, and we can't just look over that.
He was great.
So I don't want to make it seem like he's not there. He was big, but as far as getting those touches and stuff, that obviously that's something they can work on. And then I think you got to say, okay, maybe it is time you fast track Barney even a little bit more. When you see when he touches the football, it's pretty electric. And he had 57 yards on the stat sheet, but if you take away penalties and you think about a block missed here or there, he could have had a 150-yard game. If that 51-yard play stands, which I thought should have on that case, that's at 108 when I'm counting rushing and receiving. And then there's another couple plays I think he could have tacked on. He could have had 150 in a primetime game like that. And the stage did not look too big for him. You saw Rule with the funny gesture of him like pointing for the first down yesterday. He's just got that Miami swagger to him. He's like, this is fun. I belong here. Let's go. And so, there might be a guy like that. Maybe Carter Nelson pops up a little bit more here this week as we go forward. That's stuff I'd be looking for too.
Gary brought this guy up just a moment ago in Jamal Banks of wanting to see more from him. When we think about maybe the passing game not quite looking as good as hopefully it will at the end, what are you seeing from Jamal Banks and becoming more of a factor, especially in some high leverage down and distance situations?
Yeah, I'm not ready to say one way or another on him. I know statistically it hasn't been just amazing for him yet, but I think like his first week is actually fine. Like if Jamal Banks is that type of player in this offense who has 4 or 5 catches, maybe he doesn't have that gaudy like 115-yard game, but he has 55 yards and he converts 2 third down and 5s for you, or he has that red zone catch, or like sort of like he had at the end of the half against UTEP.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like his day of work that is really successful for Nebraska. As I kind of, maybe this is jumping the gun, but I sort of feel like Nayor is going to be the guy who might lead this team in receiving. And it's not just because he's ahead now. It's just because he's got, I think, that maybe bigger play potential where he's going to stack up more yards and maybe he'll have multiple 100-yard games. Maybe that's not Banks, but that doesn't mean he can't be just as impactful in his own way. I think it's going to be more, like in a box though, like that like boxing guys out, and getting that first down when you have to have it on a key third down. And that's going to matter in these games ahead pretty soon. So, in 2 weeks, it's going to really matter against an Illinois team that's much improved. So I think there's a lot that he can bring to the table that was represented in week 1. And it wasn't as much obvious in this last game, but I'm not ready to make a big thing about it at this point.
Are you ready to make a big deal about special teams?
Well, it is worrisome when you go out there for a 32, 33 yarder and you're just not confident it's going in. I mean, this is the whole season was built and still continues to be built around the chasing three theme. And literally that's what they're doing at this point. And it feels like at some point that could really cost you. And at the end of the day, you're like, they missed the kick, big deal. They won by this. It does feel like a big deal when it happens though, because it's 14-0. Mm-hmm. Colorado was pretty much down and out. Nebraska had already kind of trickled that drive down their leg on a couple plays where they should have been in the end zone. And it was one of those where it momentarily gave life. And if you didn't have such an outstanding defense that was just so on point, it could have been a problem, because it's like that's the thing that lets a team get off the mat. And if they drive down and score, suddenly you thought you were owning the whole first quarter and it was a big party, and it's not, just like that. So that kick, it's such a momentum swing, and Nebraska's defense was able to wrestle it back right away. But they looked out for their teammate on that one, because that would have been one of those moments in the past where we'd circle and we'd be talking about how it led to this downfall and that thing, So credit to the defense for rising up, but it is worrisome. You have a punt block. I still think, I know you love to cover kicks, but if you can get a touchback, I get a touchback any day of the week. And then, I do think Rule's right. Garcia Castaneda is doing a better job of catching the punts back there. You got to give credit to some guys, but hopefully they take sort of the public, beat down they got this from fans and even their own coach for their play on Saturday, and they take it to heart and they bounce back this week, because it's got to get in order. It's going to cost them a game at some point.
I know this is probably, maybe it won't be after a while. Maybe it'll be solidified, but it's probably going to be a conversation weekly with Matt Rule on evaluating the running backs from the previous week and the plan for the upcoming week. He did mention something with Gabe Ervin about reevaluating how they want to use him and not using necessarily kid gloves on him. What do you think that means for his role? Is that in a way where we kind of thought there might be a bit of a pitch count? Does that put more reps into play for him? Or what did you take from what Matt Rule said about Gabe?
It could be that. I also just think Dowdell is kind of taking the bull by the horns here. Who's the big back that's sort of stepped into that spot where they like him better at this moment. It's Dowdell, and I'm sure Gabe's off-season recovery, and he really didn't get rolling until kind of the second week of August, had something to do with that. And this is a long season. Any of those guys could be heard from, in a hurry, and it's very possible this week. If Emmett and Gabe get some more touches, they could bust out and sort of show themselves. But that was, primetime game, and Dowdell performed well, I thought. Like he ran with the purpose, and he was funny in the post game. Anybody who wondered about it, he ran in the Shiloh Sanders to send a message. That way he could. Yeah. I think he could have avoided him and honestly scored on the play. But they said let's ding these guys up, and obviously didn't want to injure someone. But man, that was a tone setter, and that type of physical running, and he's had a few runs too I've appreciated that won't get highlighted as much, where he's gotten like 4 or 5 yards where it felt like 1 or 2 off the start. And I always talk about that. That to me is like the biggest thing, and I think he's doing that really well. So you got to give him credit for sort of those hidden runs that aren't on the highlight package, but they're very effective for your team.
Yeah, I would take him at 5.2 a toad any day. Let's talk about this weekend. It is what it is. It's an FCS opponent. They are ranked. They have the 4th best rushing offense in FCS. They're going to go a lot of 12 personnel until they find out that it's tough to run on Nebraska. Only gives up 1.6. But with all that said, and a little bit on the tone of Matt Rule yesterday, BC, what do you expect Saturday night at Memorial Stadium, the last test before the Big Ten starts?
I'd be surprised if Nebraska has like a letdown performance, because the second half helped them in a way. I know it. I know it's unfortunate for the fans that they can't sit there this week and watch the entire game back 20 times. They just have to stop it at halftime and be like, I'll do something else. I'll go do my chores. But for Nebraska's big picture purpose, it might end up being the perfect sort of game because you had all that clunkiness go down in the last 2 quarters. It's easy to get your team's attention. I just love that also we're dealing with the head coach now who in the press conference says, yeah, I expected it to be 40-10. Like I expected that was the score. Like that, those are lines that we have not heard head coaches say like out loud at press conferences. And so you got to appreciate it when it's in front of you. But so they're getting that from their coaches right now. That's like, this is what this game should have been. Yeah. Everybody's going to pat you on the back. We got the win. We're happy about that. But, that's all the stuff that's you left out there. It's obvious. Let's go get it this week and let's build. And as he said, this is a winning football team right now, but they want to make it a championship football team. I think deep down, they really think this is that type of squad that can get to that point. They've got a great defense and they just got to keep building up that offense. So I think this week, especially, you want to see that run game where you feel like off the bat, you're getting 5 or 6, and then it's just kind of building on as you go, and you're just kind of enforcing your will. This should be a week where you get that done.
You don't want to see a guy like Mekhi Bayer missing any action, but if that appeal is not successful, I should say, and he is suspended for the first half.
Yeah.
Considering this matchup and the 2 guys that would be in line to play the most between Stephon Thompson and Vincent Shavers, is this, dare I say, a blessing in disguise if you're looking to see what these guys can do and you, again, want to give them some of those reps, especially for a freshman, just to have that valuable experience?
No, I think that's a fair question, Nick. It's probably, in a way, I think you could view it that way. It'd be fun to see what Shavers can do more in a role, like if it's 7-0 game as opposed to 28-0. Stephon Thompson obviously played a lot of really good snaps for Tony White, so he's sort of been a curiosity. So it is sort of the perfect setup if this is going to happen for it to happen. I will say though, stupidest freaking rule in sports is this okay, it's one thing if a guy just blows someone up intentionally and it was like, man, that was it. But we're getting into these things where, okay, if we want to throw a guy out of the game or give him a penalty because of that, okay. But if it's going to transfer over to the next game for something where we're reviewing the hit, like in slow motion too, it always looks really bad on a defender. Like these things get put in slow motion. A guy's sliding down, they're going 100 miles an hour, and we put it down to, millisecond slow motion speed where it's like, oh, look at how vicious this was. It just is so dumb to me that it transfers over to another half the next week. So I would do away with that unless I thought it was just an egregious hit or something. But anyway, that's me on my soapbox.
Czar of college football, Brian Christopherson. You could still live in Lincoln. You could still have the family. I mean, you could work remotely. But I do agree with you. Great seeing you on Saturday. We'll talk to you on Saturday night. And thanks for having me on the Hypecast last week.
Oh yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
And so Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. Listen to this, folks. Nebraska football, which, we get some interesting coaches that how they attack their Monday or Tuesday pressers. Nebraska is 2-0. They're now ranked. They had a coach that yesterday wanted to talk about missed assignments, whether it be picking up a blitz where Ramir almost killed his quarterback, a missed assignment on a block punt, a poor route running, poor blocking, or a long snap that was thrown off that twice, one time led to a knuckleball PAT, and the other attributed to a missed field goal. That's what the guy that's 2-0 spoke about yesterday. Leads me to believe that practice will not be exciting this week.
Yeah.
It will be rather engaged, and hammer time may be the theme for Saturday night.
Yeah.
Because this is the last tune-up. The Big Ten play starts next Friday night.
And that's why I think Saturday from the optics is going to be really important because of the tone that was set by the head coach yesterday. And if you're looking at a team that has matured or a team that is now understanding how to win, but in games where you are going to be the better team, the more dominant team, that it looks that way. Like to me, that's what everything at Saturday is about. Like this week of practice is probably going to be less inspirational from what was a week ago.
I like this. So they're 2 games in. Yeah, they're 2-0, but they might get to the point where, are you playing because you're talented, or are you playing because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
And in that wide receiver room, that's a real question as they sift through who should be on the field.
Yep.
Are you playing because you're talented, or are you playing because you're not only talented, but you're also doing the things that we ask?
Mm-hmm.
This is a huge Saturday night for Jamal Banks.
Yeah.
Jamal
He
Banks
should stand out.
Jamal Banks needs to be the whole package. And also, what's the no block, no rock?
Right.
We'll see if that's true.
Yep.
Because they got their 2 top wide receivers who are very talented.
Mm-hmm.
I'd still like to see them have better ways to get releases at the line of scrimmage, or separation, as they say. But doing the whole package that they ask of their wide receivers. I mean, Ed Foley and Garrett McGuire subtly were called out yesterday.
Yeah.
So those 2 areas, we'll see how they are on Saturday night. Because you can't say, hey, our quarterback is doing blank. Essentially, are you going to match him?
Right.
Ooh, hello. Hello.
And
Coach, we're 2-0. In my mind, we're 0-2. We're fighting for our lives. My job is on the line.
Now, let's not go that far if you're trying to motivate your guys.
You got to hear, we're 2-0, and I got Dannon down my throat. How come you guys didn't score more?
He was in my office that night. I had some angry texts from him. Like, I was telling everybody he's going to be in the 40s.
He's like,
what the hell?
We were having a great first half, Matt. I went out and ordered more balloons for the second half. We didn't release any balloons.
There's no balloon. Which, by the way, looked really good. It is
artistic picture on my phone.
Oh,
I know.
This group,
warm, fuzzy.
And nobody outside of anybody who covers or is a fan of Nebraska football would look at a 49-7 or a 52-10 victory over an FCS team of anything more than it was an FCS team. But knowing this group, knowing how the coach challenges them, if that shows up and that comes to fruition, that's where, again, you can look at little examples of this thing is in better hands. This thing is coming together. You can't say, nobody can say that, like a fan can't say, this game, it really means nothing other than we just got to win. It's time to look the part. And especially with what the gauntlet he threw down yesterday. And I don't think he's just doing this to some motivating tactic.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word gauntlet. I would just say a subtle
challenge,
just a reminder.
Yeah,
a reminder.
Yeah,
because he also, I mean, his offensive line caught a stray about when he was in the NFL. He looked at Northern Iowa linemen ahead of Nebraska linemen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
I don't think the gauntlet. I think it was just like a subtle, just a reminder.
Yep.
But it's also, I believe in you.
Mm-hmm.
You need to start believing in yourself if you want to be X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And again, that's why I there were just little things that he said yesterday that I thought it hit the moment, especially anything when Evan asked him about the rankings and all of that. It goes back to what he's always been consistent about with the record of, well, what record would be a successful season for you? He's like, well, I don't want to say 8-4, 9-3, because that means we lost 3 games or we lost 4 games, and I want to win every game. And just like yesterday, well, we hope to be better than 23 or 24 when all is said and done. So I'm not going to get wrapped up in it. It's the right thing to say, but it's also very consistent with what I think those guys in the whole week by week process is, because that's exactly what this program has to be right now.
He should have said 12-0, unless you know something I don't.
I mean, he didn't say that, but he doesn't.
He's told that in college by a coach.
The dude doesn't concede any matchup as
not planning on losing. Is there a game we should plan on losing?
But it's one thing for the head guy to think that, but when that's trickled down to your culture, where they are also, that's their mindset. From the first guy to the 120th guy, that's their mindset.
All right. Coming up at the top of the hour, we get the crossover. Connor Happer Show with Josh. They are out at Warner Park. It is, I think, Silver Slugger Bingo today.
Let's
with
go.
the Toledo Mud Hens. 12:05 first pitch. But Connor will be the on-field MC and also try and host his show.
Is he doing bingo too?
No. I think
He'd be a great host, though.
They have bingo going on.
I wish they would have the PA guy announce bingo during the game.
In between pitches.
But I believe
That's Bob Shepard.
I believe they shuffle in the Silver Sluggers into a tent.
Okay.
And then they give them dabbers.
Oh, okay. They got the dabbers. Yeah.
And then they get their, they move them into a tent and then they start bingoing them.
I just think it'd be awesome. In between pitches. B21.
That's what they should do.
Now batting Gary Sharp. Hey, 13.
And then as a big play happens, somebody in the stands goes, bingo!
Yeah.
That's how they should do it.
They should do it.
Yep. Have little scooter races after the game. The rascal races.
Rascals.
Yeah.
These are gold. These are great ideas.
Well, if
What
you
do you
went
got?
to
The 4 volt? I did you a favor.
if you went to a Fort Myers Miracle game,
The
got to
rascal
see this.
races?
Yeah, we let the Silver Sluggers run the bases.
Oh, they
But-
ran
yeah.
them or they were on the Rascals?
Well, we said you only have an hour.
We don't have a sundial. Presented by Bonefish.
oh,
Play catch with your grandparents.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like that. So did you really have rascal races though?
Uh-huh.
Where did they race at?
On the warning track.
Is this not gold? Right now, I can see the light in Marty's head just going,
This needs to happen.
Let's do it.
Yeah, there's at the top there are like I worked for a guy that he was like, this is funny, let's just do it.
And that's not the way you always want to describe like what a promotion should be when it has to do with our senior citizens. But I can imagine the excitement as soon as the gun goes off for the initial burst with that rascal. But then after a while, you're like, okay.
Charlie Weiss enters on his
get
rascal.
to the other foul pole now.
First pitch would be at 7:05. We opened up the gates for the Silver Sluggers at 4:30 so they could eat dinner.
You did, didn't you?
Sure.
We did. And then they were allowed to leave at 8 because they had to go to bed. Don't worry, I'll be there soon. All right, 9:33. It's Sharp and Handley in the morning at 1620 The Zone.
officially the most wonderful time of the year. Vallis season. Vallis is open starting September 13th through November 3rd and has family fun you know and love, including 2 new rides this year. Freya's Egg Spinners and Tim's Runaway Grain Train. Don't forget about the delicious food like fresh pies, caramel apples, kettle corn, turkey legs, and more. Listen with Unsports and Lyconic every afternoon for your chance to win a pair of passes. Going to the Equitable Bank inbox on tonight's volleyball matchup. TL3 says Nebraska already had their FAFO match versus SMU. I hope Creighton gets this one in Kendra's senior year. However, the loss to SMU made me think Creighton's chances went from slim to slimmer. I hope I'm wrong and Creighton gets this one, but my brain can't predict in that way.
Yeah, I'm getting a pushback after what I said earlier. I got a text that said, "Trust me."
Oh.
So maybe the real Nebraska will show up tonight.
Did you tell John Cook hi from
Nebraska?
all of us?
No, it was not him. It was not him.
He went all Jimmy Johnson before the 93 NFC Championship.
Gary, I want to
4-inch bold letters.
Come over to my office after you're done. Get your whooping.
We were talking about the Silver Sluggers because it's Silver Slugger Day at Warner Park.
Yeah.
I think just like when you get your AARP card, you get free McDonald's.
Oh, you do?
Maybe they give you free tickets. I don't know.
You do get free McDonald's for when you get your AARP?
Don't they do that still?
I don't know.
I'm going to find out.
So the one time I was working at McDonald's, somebody came in and they showed me a card, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess you get stuff free.
Really?
Was I hoodwinked as an 8? No, what was I? 17? 16?
I don't know.
When I was working at McDonald's for 2 days?
Maybe. Did they sound like, yeah, I get it for free? And so
They're
you
like,
just didn't question
it's a
it?
McDonald's thing. I'm supposed to show you this card.
And they get a Big Mac meal.
Did you ask a manager?
No.
So you just gave it to him?
Yeah.
I think you got bamboozled.
I think I might have been the best thing that ever happened to McDonald's.
I see it as you
got
there
good
for 2
karma.
days. Yeah.
Well, you
but
had some things you had to atone for earlier.
So the Silver Slugger day out at Warner Park. You know who else has Silver Sluggers?
Bonefish.
You brought it up yesterday, and I went back and looked at some highlights. The Fox pregame show is like the National History Museum.
It's really good in
with
1994.
With Terry Bradshaw and Jimmy Johnson on there.
I told you. And it's Jim. Terry's always just been cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
But we need to stop giving old people a pass.
I agree. It's not good.
Just because you're old and you have no filter, unless you're George Darlington in the press box at Nebraska games, you shouldn't just be able to get away with stuff that you say.
I know.
Okay?
I'm old and confused.
So you just have no filter and you just say whatever.
Yeah, and people just say,
That's what Bradshaw does. He has
Yeah.
no filter. And he just says, and we awkwardly laugh as he stumbles through highlights once again.
Yep.
But they are the National History Museum on the Fox pregame show.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, there's a spry Michael Strahan
amongst,
and then a really good professional in Kurt Menefee.
And makes Howie Long look very young. He really does. Like Howie Long is there mentally, like he's sharp.
He should have won an Oscar for Broken Arrow.
So it's basically he and Michael Strahan on anything that is any football substance. Everything else is just like, huh?
Statler and Waldorf.
It's like, I think they're doing a great job.
I'd still take Jimmy as a coach of my team.
Zach says in
Hair
the
still
Equitable
looks
Bank inbox, I'm waiting for the John Cook tweet today. I woke up pissed off.
Ooh, yeah.
I usually do every morning.
So last night, I made it appointment television at 6:30 because I wanted to watch Ryan Seacrest made his debut as the host of Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, that's right. How was it? I didn't watch that.
I
really didn't care.
It's like seeing Aaron Rodgers in a Jets uniform. It is weird.
Yeah.
To see Ryan Seacrest hosting that show. Now, I know he is everywhere.
Yeah. Hardest working man in
the
game.
That's Pat Sajak.
Is this full time now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy.
I'm going to watch today.
And the new syndicated television season started yesterday. Like Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune,
Judge
Steve
Judy has a
Harvey,
new show.
The View. I guess The View's not a syndicated show. All those shows started yesterday. But Wheel of Fortune with
Ricky
Ryan
Lake.
Seacrest made its debut last night. So he had this nice little open. It's his dream. He grew up in Atlanta watching it.
Sure he did.
He didn't mention Pat Sajak.
What?
Yeah.
Did Pat not give him his blessing?
Richard.
I don't know. It kind of seemed...
Was Pat forced out?
I don't think Pat was forced out, but I don't know that Ryan Seacrest was Pat Sajak's choice. Because didn't Vanna White want the job?
Did she?
I think
don't know if
I think she wanted to come off the board.
Well, I can
go
understand
over to the
that.
wheel.
Yeah, she's been typecast.
Bill O'Brien.
Now, she's still there.
Oh yeah.
Okay, she is still there. Okay, just
didn't
making
she
sure.
commit to like a couple of years?
Okay, I don't know, just making sure.
Ease the transition.
I honestly didn't care. Like Ryan Seacrest.
How do you not care about Ryan Seacrest? Ryan Seacrest is in our life 24/7, 365.
Exactly.
He's our friend.
It's so much that I don't care. I assume at some point we're going to see him on a sideline coaching a football game because he's everywhere.
Long as he wins.
Maybe.
Does he run the ball?
He'll be the next Colorado coach.
He'd be an improvement.
I mean, why not? Why stop at Dion?
I don't know after they spun the wheel for the first time what happened because I was like, I'm out.
You just wanted to see it.
I just wanted to see what he said.
Okay.
And he had a nice little open.
Was he like Tom Brady? Was he very awkward in his debut?
No, he's not. He's a performer.
Yeah,
he knows what he's doing.
That's true.
But he didn't mention Sajak.
That's actually, hopefully that was.
I'm expecting Pat Sajak to come back and have like a spinoff of Wheel of Fortune. And they're going to have a competitor.
Pull a Jay Leno and just bump him out anyway, just like Conan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. Then we'll start. Oh, now see, if we're getting 2 like rivalry wheel games, like what would you call it? Like the circle of, I don't know, circle of success.
You know, I was told not too long ago that we are a huge the Omaha market is a huge Wheel of Fortune market. Like Jeopardy does well across the board, doesn't matter where you're at, but Omaha is so the CW has back-to-back Steve Harvey on Family Feud, and that's extremely popular. It's one of the top, next to Thursday Night Lights high school football, one of the top rated programs. But like Wheel of Fortune, you're not moving Wheel of Fortune out of 6:30.
Is that your lead-in?
On ABC. Yeah, we get Steve Harvey's our lead-in.
Nice.
That's
huge.
The Family Feud, yes. I hear a lot of folks that are still into the Family Feud. Jeopardy's like an old friend. If there's nothing on TV, because you can participate in Jeopardy, you can sound off the answer, or I should say question. You can do that. Wheel of Fortune does nothing for me. Does absolutely nothing for me. They're spinning a wheel. I have no control over that. I can't participate in that either. It's nothing. There's just not fun. Other than looking at Vanna White, I really don't enjoy it. Pat Sajak was always fun, knowing that he would he'd maybe tip a few before coming on. Made me like him even more.
Everyone did back in those
Game
days.
show host, loosen yourself up a little bit.
Richard Dawson used to make out with contestants.
Yeah.
That's how he got the job in The Running Man.
He was very good in The Running Man too. Yes. And who do you love?
Only in reruns.
Yeah, I may never watch a Wheel of Fortune.
I'm
with
watching
Ryan
it tonight.
Seacrest. I don't really care. Good for Ryan Seacrest to get yet another gig. Hardest working man in show business. And I'm sure he's doing quite well. What else will he be able to do? He still does the New Year's Eve thing, right? He still that's still his thing. So he's the host of Wheel of Fortune. Does he do anything with
the radio show in LA?
Is he still doing American Idol?
No.
He's not doing the interviews or anything?
I also don't watch. I
haven't watched that.
I think so. Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Because I do see promotional video.
Okay.
Hockey Dad. Good morning, Jonathan.
Hey.
Writes in. Not the wheel. The executive producer of Jeopardy is a Omaha Central grad.
There we go.
Nice.
Harry Friedman.
Okay.
Well, I think he's still on there. Harry Friedman's like in his late 60s. But he grew up in Omaha. So there you go.
He's on the Feud?
No, he's the executive producer of Jeopardy.
Of Jeopardy. Okay. Yeah, Jeopardy's one of those things that even when you go from an iconic host to anyone else, it's always going to have its popularity.
Is Ken hosting that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tom says, Gary, Vanna was a substitute guest host when Pat was off the air for a while. It was unwatchable. She was
it
horrible. No chance she was going to ever get that job.
Is that why Pat
It's
wanted
Tom
her
in
then?
Omaha.
Because then people would
Yeah.
never be like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah, you never want to succeed the guy.
I just totally forgot about Pat because she's so good. Yeah, that's why he wanted her. He's like, because they'll always remember me then. I get it. Hey, you got to protect your legacy.
Exactly. When I
understand.
leave the show, I'm going to hire the guy that hangs out in our parking lot with his broke down car.
None of these guys sniff a candle.
That'll be your recommendation, is what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're in over 10 years. You deserve that.
I think that's the case. Like, you don't want,
No, you
like,
don't.
whoever gets hired, you don't want them to be better than you.
Is that why T.O. got Frank?
Damn.
I'm based on your logic. Based on your logic, right there.
You mean he wanted Ryan Seacrest?
Based
also?
on your logic, right there, you're saying that T.O. said, "Yeah, I'm good as long as I recommend Frank." And then Frank said, "Please get Bill Callahan if you're going to fire me."
Discuss amongst yourselves.
That's true.
I had to watch a lot of Bill Callahan on Sunday, by the way. I think they forgot that he wasn't the head coach. That's what
I heard.
They showed way more Bill than they did his son. I honestly do. I think they're like,
right.
oh, crap, he's not. Oh, his son's the head coach. All right, we need to go to him. There was a lot of Bill. It was nice. He looks happy.
So in this case of football coaches at Nebraska, they want the one that comes from behind them to be worse.
Mm-hmm.
How are we feeling now?
I know. This guy.
We're back to wrap the show on 1620 The Zone. All right, putting a wrap on the show. We got crossover coming up next. Connor Happer, Josh Hodson. We're out at Winter Park, where the Storm Chasers begin their final regular season homestand. They're taking on the Mud Hens of Toledo, the Detroit Tigers affiliate. Then they'll go on the road. Then they'll be back, and they're in the playoffs in 2 weeks.
Playoff fever.
That's cool.
They've had their roster has changed a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but Omaha's really good. They're on a record pace for all-time wins. I think they're near an 80. What are they? 81 wins, I think.
Okay, so is the format where they still have?
So they
essentially
would host,
they call the national championship too.
So they host Columbus for a best of 3,
Okay,
and then they would play a winner-take-all against the Pacific Coast League champion. That's how that would work.
Fun little fact is the second date I ever had with my now wife, we watched the Storm Chasers national championship at the Old Saints at Midtown.
Wow.
And got hammered.
On that note.
Yeah. Didn't mean for that to happen, but it just happened.
Then what happened?
Amigos.
Gentleman doesn't kiss and tell, Gary.
There's very few gentlemen that are out there anymore. Just ask any woman.
Before we go, although it's
she
kinda
claims
hard
that
to-
I didn't feed her that night. That's why she got
Whoa.
so drunk. She's like, "It's your fault. You didn't feed me." Like, I thought we were just going for a drink.
It's all you, Gary.
The fact that she would sit there and watch a AAA championship.
So her really good
I would have put a
friend,
ring on her finger that night.
her really good
An
friend was
onion
the girlfriend of the former director of marketing, Rob Sternberg.
Okay.
So we had the mutual acquaintances there, and so we all got together to have a good old time.
That's awesome.
And we forgot to eat.
I can't judge. I've done that many
we
times.
did not forget to drink. Bottomless beer, and we never found the bottom.
By the way, 85-50 in favor of donuts to cookies, and
Did you say 85-50?
85-15.
Okay, I was like, how's that
and
possible?
Peace and Love says my buddy from New York City said they used to spin bagels.
Oh,
yeah,
cookies are better than bagels.
Yeah, I would disassociate myself with that person.
Mm-hmm. That's weird.
A lot in there.
All right. Tomorrow is Wednesday. A little hump day action.
Jim.
That story was a day early.
I just saw Jim's comment in the stream. Can't repeat that.
I know nothing.
Maybe he did. That's for the crossover.
No, it's not.
Poll question? Talk to you tomorrow at 6.